out, I can beat the traffic, and we'll start the Technology and Buildings and Grounds Committee.
I
Okay,
want to
Greg?
welcome everyone to the meeting. Tonight we have the McClure Company with us. They're going to present on the Peters Solar Project, and we have Alyssa Wiganfield and Dip Smith. So I'll turn it over to Alyssa.
All right, great. Well, thank you for having us. If you want to bring up the presentation, we'll kind of go through the slides. You also have it in front of you. It's lovely to be back. We appreciate it. If you have questions throughout, feel free to let Deb or I know. We'll do our best to answer, and we'll leave some time at the end.
and just for logistics again, I'm going to say that we'll hold questions until the end, and then we'll give the board members courtesy of asking any questions that they may have, and then we'll open it up to the general audience. Okay?
Okay. So if you'd like to go to the next slide, we just wanted to highlight our partnership with the district. Since 2018, we've done a number of energy projects here at the district, including lighting, building envelope, roofs, HVAC, the high school classroom renovations, and also the most recent middle school kitchen upgrade, which is currently under measurement and verification. If you want to turn to slide 3, our next natural step, we tell school districts, once we take care of all your energy efficiency projects, you should consider looking at solar. So if you remember from last time we were here, right now there's a 30% tax credit, there's PPL rebates, you can lease solar for a maximum of 30 years. So we put final numbers together tonight to represent that. And that allows you to come up with $0 up front, $0 at the end of 30 years, and basically you'd be leasing the system over that term. Over that term, McClure is responsible for maintaining, operating it, keeping it up and running. Any issues over that term is McClure's responsibility. The only thing that the district would need to do is mow around the panels. So that's a quick snapshot of the overview of solar. So let's get into Peters Elementary study. We gave you some preliminary numbers, but we really spent the last 6 months heavily doing our due diligence on the final design and location of the solar array. So we located a solar array. It's a ground-mounted system. You can see it's kind of out back in that corner at Peters Elementary. And that solar array would serve 100% of the annual electric consumption at the elementary school. So we're modeling our current rate. We're inflating it 3% per year, including the first year when this would come in line in 2024. And over 30 years, we look at the final numbers, the district will save over $500,000. So if you remember when we were here 6 months ago, we thought that would maybe be in the $670,000 range. What happened since then is PPL chopped their rebate significantly, and they did it again on June 1st. So we actually submitted your application prior to the second chop of the rebate so that you guys could get those monies if you do decide to move forward. Construction costs also increased slightly over the last year that we've also looked at. Anything to add? All right, so let's look at how the financials played out. So we've located it, and then we put a final cash flow together. So these numbers are contract ready. It again offsets 100% of Peters Elementary load. It's about a 0.5 megawatt system, just shy of it, 452 kilowatts. If you look at the table, we'll move from left to right. Column 1 is years 1 through 30. This assumes $0 cost up front by the district. Column 2 shows the annual generation of the panels, so 100% again. And you're going to see a 0.5% per year degradation. After 30 years, you're looking at about 86% efficacy. Column 3 is the projected electricity costs without solar. So had you done nothing, what would you pay to your PPL and your electricity supplier? You see that you're increasing that 3% per year. That has been the average of the last 35 years for commercial energy rates. Column 4 is the fixed PPA. This is the price you would pay for McClure. This fee includes installing the field, all the soft costs and hard costs, maintenance over the term each year. We'll also replace the inverters in years 15. We included all the tax credits that have gone up to 30%, the accelerated depreciation, SREC credits we'll manage on behalf of the district. McClure takes the risk on those, and also the generated electricity. So if you take column 3, subtract column 4, you get the net savings, column 5, and that continues to build in column 6 that shows the cumulative savings. So if you want to go to the next slide, in terms of next steps, these are contract-ready numbers. So at this point, we'd be looking to the district to make the decision if they want to move forward in assembling this contract and take it for board action. And then the second part of our presentation is just to give you an update of the main campus, and you can see those steps below. So at this point, slide 7, we can take any questions you might have. I just listed some of our references there. Best thing you can do with any of these school projects is check references, see if the schools are saving money. These are 3 of the projects we've done over the last 5 to 7 years, so definitely recommend.
I'm just looking at some of the numbers, and I'm on page, I don't know, the one that says solar analyst, Peters Elementary, and I'm probably missing something here, but it says Peters Elementary utilizes 540 kilowatt hours, and then the third one down says you're going to generate 452. You can see those numbers?
Yep. So if you want to turn to slide 4,
What's 4?
please. Yep, go back one more. All right. So 540,000 kilowatt hours of electricity is how much hours of electricity over the entire year. Your peak amount that you'll generate is that 452 kilowatts. So at any given time, that's the max electricity you would need, and that's how we would size the
So that would be 100% of our use then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And then-
Good question. We were just mixing metrics, that's all.
Okay, because on the next page then it says, annual generation, it says kilowatt hours 593.
Yep, so if you want to go to slide 5, so PPL you can sell back if you generate some additional excess up to 110%. So we slightly oversized the field for that ability to sell back, and you can create.
So that's
extra
why that
revenue.
number, okay.
That's why it's real low. Yep,
So that's not reflected in here, but it could possibly be extra.
extra, yep.
Thank you.
And what would the cost for that inverter replacement?
So that's included in this model, relative cost in today's dollars.
Anywhere from 15 to 20,000 for a replacement.
What was the number again, I'm sorry?
15,
15 to 20,000.
And then, Mrs. Wingfield, if we produce an overage, who receives that?
The district,
The district. And that's off of future payments to PPL?
correct. It would be credited to your
A
PPL
credit,
account.
thank you.
And then once a year, every May, you would true off to the district.
Okay, thank you.
So 1 year.
PPL will buy that back at the supply rate, you just have no way of knowing what that rate will
Can you pull the slide up where it shows where the field is again?
Steve?
So I'm looking at the top left. So in relation to that, would it be behind it on the right?
Yes, it'll be on the right side there.
Right there?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
It's within kind of a dip in the field there,
Okay.
staying away from the existing pipes that are there now.
Would there have to be a fence around that?
Yes,
And
by code.
whose responsibility?
Ours.
Whose?
We'll be installing the fence.
Have we considered doing any quotes for doing it on the rooftops? Are we ever going to get that comparison?
For the high school, we were asked to do that, and we have that today.
Any other questions from board members?
Right now, though, we're looking at Peters as a separate
Right.
project, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Questions from other guests this evening? Mr. Hassad?
Can we look at the timeline again, please?
Okay.
Is it possible? So the proposed timeline you have here, spring of '23, board review and action has the spring already passed around that end?
Oh,
Is
yep,
that correct? Or-
correct, yep.
So we're already, that is not quite correct then? It's not conflict, right?
Sure, that should be moved over slightly to the beginning of summer 2023.
Okay.
Yep.
Have you done any an alternative proposal regarding a different timeline rather than just a 32 years high this project for the district. I asked about that the last meeting to show different opportunities regarding timelines. Since 30 years
In
is
terms of the.
instead of a 30-year contract, tie back to 20 years, some alternatives. I mean, 30 years is a long time. A lot of stuff can happen. So some of those numbers may fluctuate tremendously. I mean, it's a pretty interesting assumption.
So we've only modeled a 30-year power purchase agreement to date because in that scenario, the district wouldn't have to come up with any cash for the system, whether it's today, out of pocket, or in the future. We certainly could run shorter intervals, but at those shorter intervals, the district would have to buy the system at a fair market value for whatever it's worth, whether it's in year 5, 10, 15, 20, basically any year between 5 and 30. And then we can model those numbers, you just have to tell us what you think interest rates or how to model those assumptions.
So there's more than now one buyout option for the district, because last time I remember, it was only after year 5 that we can make the decision, or the board can make the decision to buy out.
You can
Has
buy the
that changed?
system anytime. If you buy before year 5, you lose the 30% tax credit and all the depreciation credits. If you buy it between years 5 and 30 at any year, you have to purchase a system at fair market value. That's an IRS rule because you have to lease the system for the life of the system, which is 30 years.
And you guarantee that in the contract.
Yes.
So,
There's early buyout options within the contract if the district wants to buy out early.
so if generation due to, how to say it, due to wear and tear on the solar panels, they can continue to produce at an adequate rate, Equinor would replace those?
Correct.
You do maintenance on those
Correct.
regularly?
We have to own, operate, and maintain it. Once a year, we're going to true it up for kilowatt hour production that we guarantee. If there's a shortfall, we owe the district the difference. So there's a maximum that we guarantee in kilowatt hour production each year of the solar array.
The fence came up, you can answer that part of the question, that was one from last time around.
Yeah.
Maintenance, grass cutting within that area also under your
It's
responsibility?
the only thing that we don't have within these numbers just because typically schools ask to do that.
So we have another guest with us for full transparency. She is not a community member, Mrs. Oppinger, nor a property owner within the district. She's representing another solar provider company. I'll open it up to the board members on the committee if they want to entertain any questions or comments from another provider at this time.
Gonna hurt any, I guess.
What was your comment, Reverend?
This is not gonna hurt any.
I have a question for you. Your PP rate that you're charging the school district is 10.19?
Our PPA.
A little over 10 cents per
Yeah, probably not. It's not too
And
big.
you show, I couldn't see, did you show a savings in the first year?
Yes.
Once it's operating?
And currently, they're only paying 8 cents per watt hour. So how are you showing a savings?
So if you go back one more slide. So from our calculations, looking at 2022 year, they were paying 10 cents, a little over 10 cents. So we inflated at 3% for the first year of 6 months in 2024, and then 3% for every year after that.
The only thing I'll say to this board is I would look at your utility bill in detail. Because our calculation, we're only paying 0.089 cents per kilowatt hour. And they haven't included to show a savings.
Mrs. Molitores, do you have any insight to our utility bill?
McClure has access to all of our utility bills. We gave them access to in order to pull down all of the information. So the information that they have is actually what was on our PP&L bills. And I'm assuming probably yes, through our provider, we pay 0.089 cents or whatever it is a kilowatt based on our electricity purchasing agreement, but that does not include the cost for the line trans and all the other fees that are associated on that PP&L bill as well, where we wouldn't have that anymore with this. So it's just 10 cents. You're not paying all those line fees and all the other fees that you have on a normal PP&L bill.
So what we can do is just provide a breakdown of where the rate came from.
Correct. Yep.
We can do that.
So, if I just bring to your attention the PPA, your solar arrays producing kilowatt hours, not demand. And the distribution of demand would be that 10 cents. But what they can offset is your rate of 8 cents and a PPA. At that rate, you would not see any savings.
Well, these numbers in here will be guaranteed what you folks give us if we sign the contract, correct?
The rates are guaranteed,
Right.
correct.
And so if we didn't make the savings you indicated, McClure would in fact reimburse the district for that.
At the same kilowatt hour production.
Right.
We're guaranteeing, correct.
Thank you.
And so if rates go down, we're locked into higher rates then?
Correct. But if the rates would go up, you're locked in at the lower rate. So
We're already
we-
starting to see some decreases in electricity costs at this time.
So that's really, we have to model what you think will happen with electricity rates. So what we did is we looked back at the last 35 years of commercial Pennsylvania electricity rates and drew a straight line and came up with 3.3%. So we used 3% in our models as the rate of escalation. You see it go up, you see it go down, the straight line is about 3.3%.
And is it possible that the district might be able to look into other providers for lower rates? As I mentioned before, I have a very low rate for my business.
So right now, we participate in a consortium for power purchasing. The board, again, it all comes to a directive back to administration from the board. If the board would like us or direct us to go out and explore other purchasing arrangements, administration will do that. We just need that directive from the board. Mr. Hassall.
When I do purchase capital equipment for my company, I am always required to perform different analysis. I mean, a 3% escalator year over year, a very linear approach is a very easy one. Usually that is not quite true. But also, like you said, there's other scenarios. What if it drops? What if it grows faster? So I, as a resident, I would like to see also different scenarios in terms of what is the savings if energy rates are going to drop or if they are going to rise at a higher rate. Just so different scenarios with a certain likelihood of occurrence can come up. Because energy rates over the last years also have fluctuated enough, just literally increased, especially when it comes to possible decisions on buyout of the public system. So I think that would be a fair information to provide. Is that a possibility?
Sure. We can provide an Excel spreadsheet with these numbers. And
Well, hold on, that-
inflation rates.
So we appreciate the question, but that directive needs to come from the school board about whether they would like McClure Company to do that or not.
Can I ask a question? If you were sitting in our position, what would you do?
Asking me personally
Yes.
or
Collectively, to the audience who's here, because we're all hearing the same thing, right? So we're all trying to make cost savings decisions for the district, do it in the best way possible, and you go listen to the social media, you go listen to the news, you go listen to the community, you go listen to whomever.
Yep.
We're obviously one. If you were in our situation, what would you do?
Should I start answering that question?
I'm doing now, he said.
Do you ask him specifically or
The community.
I'll start answering. You okay with that? So a couple things. Alternatives are lacking for my side beyond one provider. Different financial scenarios I would like to see. Different rates, different options on how to make a better assessment on the situation. I do like the breakout of the project in different sections, Peters versus the other part. The time frame, 30 years, in my opinion, is way too long. A lot of stuff can happen. You guys would be making decisions for more or less 30 years to come. I would shorten that time frame. So overall, my personal opinion of Peters, probably not a bad situation. The numbers might actually work out on that part. If you want my opinion on what I would do on the other part with the environmental topic, I would strongly stay away from that. Doesn't just
We'll get
We'll get to that part.
Okay, then
Let's
I'll-
talk Peters.
Compartmentalize it.
Open up the question. Thank you.
Are you thinking keeping within the solar realm, or are you asking us to look at other things?
So
I think we should be exploring everything. I mean,
the
like
goal should be, in my opinion, lowering costs for the district overall.
So are we lowering it for 1 year, or are we looking to lower it for
Multi-year.
multi-years?
Well, I would look at multi-years, but a first approach would be, okay, can we start with something simple that doesn't require any investment, any risk?
So I think we did that, though.
We did that.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've already done, and I guess that's where I'm trying to understand, because I'm not sure I'm a fan of the solar, I'll be honest with you. And so I understand where we're all coming from, and I'm looking at it and I'm going, feel like whatever decision we make is not right. And at some level, we have to make a decision. Do we change how we're doing what we're doing today and look at solar or look at some alternative, and that's the direction we go? Or are we looking from year to year to spend the time? What is the cost balance and benefit if I'm gonna have an administrator look every year to save $60? I know it's more than $60, please understand that. To save $60 or put something in place for a 10-year period, and we're gonna save X amount of money. What,
But you're not really saving much in the first 5 years. There's minimal savings. It takes 30 years to save that $522,000.
Agreed. I'm not disagreeing.
So if your Portisum contracts are a year, it doesn't take much to go and look at that and have them come to you and say, yeah, we can do it for this. You sign a contract. It's very simple. It is not a hard job to do.
I'd be concerned frankly about the way the economy is going and everything. I mean, the fact that the prices, I mean, PP&L dropped it recently, which was really surprising. I can tell you, I was at 6 cents, and then when it said it was gonna be 14, I was like, wow. So, I got it for 9, but I just think the volatility with the way the world is going these days, this would give us a set amount that we would save, and with the potential long-term also to sell back to PP&L. That's just my personal opinion.
A potential of savings, because if the rates go down, you're not saving anything.
But,
There's always a risk attached to that.
but we wouldn't be paying that anyway. So I understand what you're saying, but we can't know that today.
Correct. But I don't know either if the thing's going up the way they project.
The rates could go up.
I think there's a risk in everything that the board does, from, you know,
Yeah, it's gonna go up.
approving a contract, doing a budget, how much do you do, how much do you tax, whatever, there's always a risk. I saw something the other day that OPEC, once again, is going to start tightening some of their oil. I can only guess what that's going to do to energy prices. I certainly don't see them going down as a result of that. And clearly, they've gone up over the years, and you can make that argument on any investment that it went down 8% last year, but if you look at the market since 1920, you know, it's done this. And I think you have to look at the long term and not just the short term. Could it go the other way in the short term? Absolutely. You know, a tree fell down and hit my car the other day. Do I expect that to happen? No, but it can. It's a possibility, and those are the things that you have to look at. So, you know, I can't look at this as a 1 or a 2 year thing. I have to look at this as a long-term project, and is it in the best interest of the district to move forward in some kind of a solar situation? And I guess, in my opinion, it's good to move forward in some way. Is it this way, is it another way? I don't know about that. I think moving forward makes sense to me at this time. I don't know. On the Peters situation, we're talking strictly Peters. And, you know,
I think Mrs. Williams has a question.
So after, I mean, I'm looking long-term also. So after 30 years, when these things don't work, I mean, I'm looking out for my daughter's future, my grandchildren's future, and the district's future. So in 30 years, I may not be here, but I do care. How much is it gonna cost to replace all this, to get rid of all this, and to install new solar panels?
So it's $200 to remove
So
it.
who knows what it's gonna cost in 30 years?
No, it's McClure's responsible. So
In 30 years,
Yes.
you're gonna put all new solar panels in,
We're gonna remove all the solar panels,
and then you're done.
and then we walk away. The second option is the district can ask us to abandon them or replace, and they become your asset. So that decision doesn't have to be made today. You can see the efficacy of the panels, you can see the lifespan, how many issues we've had. They will need new inverters every 30. But you will have that ultimate choice. Now, the manufacturer says panels have a 40-year life, so you can start to see if there's recycling in place, when the cost would be to recycle it after you're 40. So those decisions can be made.
I don't think they're recyclable. I'm entitled.
Oh, there's gonna be a
Well,
lot
30
that's
years,
gonna
I'm not
change
sure.
in 30 years.
I'm just saying the cost to recycle them, we don't know what that is today.
And I know I did ask you last time about the health risks. Did you ever research that?
Yes.
We did research that, and we weren't able to find anything that related panels to cancer. There's nothing that actually links it to cancer that we found.
You didn't find it. Okay.
So after 30 years, when the lease is up, where are we at then? We're going to go back to whatever's available. We're gonna just figure it out, 30 years.
Or continue.
Or did-
What happens if we continue to, their lease ends in 30 years, so then what? Where are we at in 30 years?
So you can continue up to 40 years, which would buy you 10 years of time to decide.
What happens after 40 years?
We're back at the table like we are today.
Trying to put in a whole new array
Or whatever the new
and not knowing what.
electricity
Right.
is in
Could
40
be at
years,
that
30
time.
years, 20 years, whatever.
They're getting from Saturn, and, you know, they're gonna strip it down.
It's gonna come from Mars, I don't know.
Not Saturn, not Mars, but.
I mean, we can only go so far.
I'm just
Right.
trying to get
You
a
know?
picture, like, are we gonna go back to electricity then? Like, what
But-
was the
but
point of
maybe-
solar if we have to go back to electric?
The 30 years, at the end of the 30 years, you make a decision. It's like everything with the budget, you make a decision
I
that
would
has an
only-
end date.
Sorry, Mrs. Cole. I would only recommend that you don't wait until year 30. You probably want around year 25, want to start having those conversations as whomever's on the board at that time.
Probably after 5 years, that's really when, you know, that's the conversation.
Or ability to be like them, where will they be?
So for this evening, administration's going to need direction on Peters from this committee if you want us to place an item on a board agenda to move forward with solar at Peters. So that's the first question from administration. And, go ahead, Mr. Williams. I think you had-
I won't comment. It was mentioned that you were concerned about, that it almost sounded like
I'm sorry.
you didn't know what decision was, it just sounded like you wanted to move forward with something. Was that with the solar project or a pricing scheme on the electric? There's some things in this conversation that we've been having here for months that I've been listening to that are concerned. One is that we've, and I'm sure the McClure folks are wonderful people to work with, and they've updated our system and our electricity to lower the water usage. And the elementary schools, the lighting, and the kitchen remodel, and I understand all that. What may have been concerning in conversation tonight was the next step or the next stage. It almost seems like, okay, we agreed 4 years ago to come in and update your lighting and update your kitchen remodel, and this is a part of the process. This was in the making all along. Okay. So that kind of struck a chord with the next step in the process of tying the school district into our company is this, okay? Number two, there was some discussion some time ago about researching or reaching out to other solar companies to do the same comparable thing. That even though we had already had a happy marriage with McClure as far as updating schools, we really hadn't reached out to any of the other companies that are available that do this similar type of thing to see what they had to say. I have not, unless I missed a meeting or it's a minute somewhere. I don't recollect any other companies coming in with a presentation.
So I can respond to that, to at least the first part of it.
Okay.
Totally separate projects, the ESCO project, the Guaranteed Energy Saving, the GIZA project, and this. About a year ago, the board, during the budget process, directed administration to go out and explore solar. I said, would you like us to contact the McClure company who has done all of our energy savings project? And the response was yes. So that was not McClure coming to the district, that was the board telling administration to go out and have that conversation. As far as inviting in other providers, the board has not yet directed administration to do that.
What would be the process for that?
I would have to receive direction from the school board to go out for RFPs,
Okay.
which has not yet occurred.
Yeah, see, this is the concern I have with doing that. I don't have the expertise to make that decision, okay? I don't know which is the best process, etc. When McClure came to us, they said, this is our knowledge, this is what we're offering. We're offering you this system, okay? When you do an RFP, it's the other way around. Now, we come up and we design the system. We say, please, stay with me, please. When we do an RFP, that means we want to put a new roof on this building, okay? We design the roof. We go out with a request for proposal, and we go out and say, we would like a new roof put on this building. It's X number of square feet, it's this thick, it's this wide, etc. We design it, and then we go out and ask people to come in and put a bid on based on our design. That could be a roof, it could be a macadam project, it could be a school bus, it could be any number of things. We design it. We did not design it. McClure we didn't say to McClure, this is what we want. McClure came to us and said, this is our solar proposal. So that's the difference between going out for bid and going out on an RFP and where we're at with McClure. I'm not suggesting an RFP is wrong, but if we do that, I'm not capable of designing that. I don't think anyone on this board is, let me finish please, is capable of designing that. I don't think anybody on our entire administrative team is capable of doing that. Before I would do that, I would want to go out and hire an expertise and have someone draw that up for me, which is not what we've done here, but that's what you would need to do to go out for an RFP. You can't just say, give me a bid, because they're going to come in all over the place, all different kinds of scenarios. 180 degrees apart, I don't know which one of those to pick. So I don't think we're at the point of going for an RFP, is what I'm saying. I think it's, do we like McClure's proposal, and this is their knowledge, this is their design, it's not going to cost us a penny, this is what they're offering, do you want it or not, and this is the proposal we have at this point in time. But if the board, and I'm only one, if the board decides that they want to hire a person, if they want to go out and they want to do an RFP, that's a whole other story. But that's not where we're at with respect to this proposal at this time, is what I'm saying. So.
In regards to designing, I believe that the companies like McClure tell you what they think would work, like putting it on roof. You don't design that. They come to you and say, this is what would work.
But when you put out the RFP, you have to put out what you want. I mean, you can't just say we want a roof and then people come in with all the designs. That's not the way we can do
Well,
that.
how did McClure do it?
We gave them direction that we wanted this done.
But did you tell them exactly where you wanted it? You left it
No,
up to
we
them
left
to
it up to them to
decide,
do the analysis for us.
which is exactly what other companies can do.
I would recommend, if the board directs administration to go out for an RFP, that we do hire an expert to come in and draw up what I'm going to call the specs for us, so we're absolutely sure that it's apples to apples.
So is that gonna be for free?
Of course not.
Then I'm against that. Then I'm against that.
Well, are you charging the district right now for your services here?
We've done everything else.
They haven't charged us a penny yet.
I mean, in terms of your RFP, just what is the objective that we're trying to get to here within the district? We're looking to save money. We're not doing this maybe because we have a good heart, or however you want to call this. We want to be green, we want to save energy, the environment, and God knows what else. But at the end of the day, I think it comes down to dollars and cents. So we're looking to save money from an energy perspective, and I think the parameters for your RFP can be very simple. For what time frame would you like to have either 100, 75, 50% of your energy cost offset, whether this is solar, wind, water turbines, or whatsoever, but at the end of the day, I think this is what it comes down to, the objective. And then each provider can technically provide their services, because that cost, their engineering time is, you're already paying for it if you sign this contract. That's already in there.
So how many companies would we have to go and review and make a decision and see if they're even apples to apples, the amount of
At
time?
least more than one, I would say.
Yeah, at least one.
But didn't we get a proposal from someone that was literally in our email?
Yes.
We had
An
someone?
unrequested.
An unsolicited one, and just to put that in perspective, the school district has never brought in an unsolicited vendor to come in and present at a committee. It's by either we invite them in or the board directs administration to go in. So just to kind of put it in outside the realm of energy savings, curriculum companies. I probably get 4 or 5 emails a day from a curriculum provider saying, let us come in and talk. Security systems, let us come in and overlook your school safety and security and make recommendations. So we get unsolicited proposals all the time. And we have, in the years that I have been here, we have not said, come in and speak at a committee meeting. So I think this is the same, right, scenario. And I'm going to go back to my initial statement, or my initial request. Administration is going to need direction about what you want to do next. First on Peters, then on the main campus. If we go to Peters, do you want to continue with McClure? If you want to open it up to receive, to officially welcome in other proposals, then I'm going to recommend as your superintendent that you let us work with an expert to draw that up. To whatever extent, or you set a cap on it not to exceed of whatever that cost would be. But I agree with Mr. Green that I can certainly tell you that my training has not prepared me to design something like this. I would look next to Mr. Durr, who is our facilities expert, and I don't, okay. So I would ask that the board approve a dollar amount for us to go to do that, if you want us to open it up to other providers. So administration's questions for Peters are, do you want to move forward with solar at Peters Elementary? If yes, do you want to move forward with the McClure company? If no, you don't want to move forward with McClure, is it then you want to open it up to other providers for an RFP, which McClure would be allowed to be part of, participate in? But then I am recommending that you allow us to work with an expert to draw up that RFP. So that's kind of like the if-then approach of where we are. Administration is honestly just looking for, direction. We're about over a year into this process, and we think we're ready to make some decisions.
How is the savings going with the other districts that you have listed here?
Great.
Have they sold back to
So, yes, Steel and Highspire, I know off the top of my head, have saved even more than we projected in here. Mostly due to rate changes and being able to sell.
Question. Has any school districts that you did a presentation to, did not go along with your company? Did they say, no, we don't want to do solar with your company?
Yeah.
Any local districts around here?
Yeah, sure.
There
That's
have.
awesome. Yeah.
Like Jim Thorpe is one of them, that you went into the presentation, and Jim Thorpe School District said, we don't want to do solar, right? That was in the paper. So just want to let you know, there are local school districts that are not using the core.
How many school districts are you servicing right now?
For energy projects, we work with over 80 school districts in the state of Pennsylvania. For solar, we have 4 school districts that have existing installations.
And how many local school districts in Lehigh Valley?
For energy projects or for solar?
Solar.
For solar, the closest project would be Elizabethtown School District in Lancaster County.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Williams?
I don't think, honestly, anyone's against solar, but it is a great leap forward for the residents and the school district administration to take this leap to have a project that's permanent, that you're kind of tied to. It sort of sounds like a mortgage. If the rate goes up, you're locked in. If the rate goes down, well, you're still locked in. I think everyone would like to feel comfortable with the idea as it goes forward. It's sort of like buying a car. You don't buy the first car that you check out. You look around and check out the features and see what everybody has to offer. And maybe from that point of view, there may be something out there that we're not, and I'm sure the McClure people are reputable and they do a fine job, but maybe for our specific needs, there may be an alternative that hasn't been raked over to have a look at. Listen, I drive through New Jersey every day and I see all kinds of different solar arrays and solar ideas, different ways that people are doing solar. Maybe they'd be great for the Peters project, but if we use this company without doing a little more comfortability as far as progressing with them as a company and not seeing what else is out there, I'm sure they would be a shoo-in for what would be the next step in the project is the senior high school. And I see there's all kinds of alternatives and to put that site, instead of putting that site where it's planned, to reap the same benefits. I see all kinds of different arrays and fabrications in my travels. So I'm just hoping that when we go forward with this, that everyone can be comfortable with it and the savings it produces is worth the time we've invested.
Thank you.
And one more time, to your comment, if you don't, or anybody on the board possesses the technical expertise to design the specifications for an RFP, then how do you have the capabilities to, I want to say, blindly trust McClure to make the right decision for the school district and their citizens? So that kind of, for me, goes hand in hand, especially if you don't possess the technical capabilities, that's fine. But what I think everybody of us can do, or also you can do in terms of buying a car, you can compare facts and figures if they're compared side by side. That's why I like Mr. Lung's proposal to go towards an RFP.
And just for clarity, that was a question.
That was a question.
It was a question, not a proposal. That was a question. Again, looking for directive from the committee tonight, or direction. And I would also say, my only other comment, Mr. Hassold, is we now have a 5-year history with McClure where they've met those expectations each time. That is not an endorsement, it is just a statement of fact. So, again, I will look to the committee to give administration direction as to whether you would like to move forward with Peters. If so, would you like to move forward with the McClure company? Or would you like to open it up for an RFP? If we're going to go an RFP, I request that you allow administration to partner with an expert to help us draft that RFP.
Just real quick, am I allowed to ask for a quick little recap here?
No, you can't, it's too late, you can't ask them to put on.
Am I fired, Matt?
You're fired, that's
Here's the booklet for you.
Just a quick recap, like where are we, what was explained?
Sure. So,
Sorry.
again, Mrs. Wingfield and Mr. Smith presented what's in the Peters. We've only done Peters so far conversation. And there's been a number of questions that have come up from board members and community members. And I am requesting that the committee provide direction to administration this evening about Peters. State the questions again, or the direction we're looking for. Does the committee want to move forward with a solar project at Peters? If so, do they want to move forward with the McClure company? If they want to move forward, but not necessarily with McClure, do they want to open it up for an RFP? And if so, I am requesting that they allow us to work with an expert to help us draft that RFP at whatever that cost may be. If they want to set a ceiling on the cost and not exceed, I would ask for that as well, but I would need to go find out a little bit more about what that cost would actually look like.
Our savings overall dropped a little bit because of changes to the rate.
Okay. Mr. President, is it prematurely to make a motion now?
I don't think we can make a motion, but we.
Well, make a recommendation.
We could say like, I'd be comfortable.
A recommendation to
putting
do, to
this
move on.
On the committee.
Is
yeah,
it
yeah.
appropriate to do so?
I think so.
I-
Robin, he's the
Robin, you
chairman
okay with
of
that?
the committee.
Yeah, I was gonna ask her on the board.
Well, I would like to suggest, I guess if that's the current we want to do, that we continue with solar. I think we put a lot of time into it, and I think we could debate this for the next 30 years, and then we still would be no further along. So I would move that we would, or not move, I would request that we look into continuing with the solar, and that we continue with McClure.
Okay, so Gary, you want to...
That's my recommendation.
That's
recommendation only.
That's your
Yes.
voice.
Yes, sir.
And whether RFP or...
No, I'm just saying, not anything, my thing is, I am making a,
He's saying move ahead with, if it was up to him.
Move ahead with
and he was
McClure.
the only person voting, he would move ahead with Peters and move ahead with McClure.
Okay.
yes, sir.
Is that
So that's
correct?
Gary.
That's correct.
That's correct.
I also agree with Gary to move ahead with McClure. That's me. Okay.
Just
Bob?
a point of clarification, it's just for Peters.
For right now, Peters, that's
yes,
what we're
yeah, we
discussing
said
right
Peters.
Yes.
now. Okay? Bob?
Agree.
Gail?
You're not tied, you can pass. I'm a trust person, but I'm also a data person. So I hate to say it, I'm gonna have to say open it up to RFP. Can I ask a question? Are there any other deadlines as far as credits or anything that would have to be met recently? Upcoming or anything?
They all continue on.
We got you under the wire.
So the next, if somebody else comes in and they try like, in 3 months, 4 months, are they gonna offer the same credits like you got? That's my question.
I don't know if your rebate's transferable.
Like if would those rebates still be there, I guess is my question.
It depends where they locate it and how they design it and what their application to DPL looks like. So I'm not 100% sure.
The credits are not available after June 1st. The programs change from PPNL.
Okay.
The rebate programs change effective June 1st. And we were able to preserve the previous for this project.
That's what my question was, thank you.
Answer your question?
Yeah, she did. So that would still, in my mind, if I'm thinking about that, if that would open up for RFP, those are still on the table with McClure. Even if we open that RFP up and still go with McClure, correct?
Right. With our current design and our layouts.
Right.
That's what we submitted with the application. Yeah.
Perfect.
Is there a drop dead
Mr.
deadline?
Green?
I think we picked this thing around, do you want to go next, Donna?
I just wanted to ask her, is there a deadline for McClure for us to give you an answer?
I don't know if McClure has a deadline, but I think
We
we
do.
kicked this thing around
do.
long
We do.
enough. We've had, I don't know how many now, 6, 8 meetings we've talked about this. And you asked about questions being asked, Chad, we're asking pretty much the same questions over and
Every
over again.
meeting.
And we're going
I said we
around
filled
the
30
same
years.
circles. And so, I think I'm ready to move forward. And when you talk about hiring a consultant, and I look at some of the savings here, I don't know how much a consultant would cost to do that. $20,000, $30,000, $40,000? I don't know. I'm sure they wouldn't do it for $2,000 or $5,000. So, if you look at some of the cumulative savings here and you pay somebody $30,000, you just wiped out your first 9 years of savings at Peters. It makes no sense to me to hire a consultant for Peters at this point in time. So, I would be willing to move forward at this point.
Mr. Disler, before you get anybody else's input, again, just so we get everything out on the table, I'm going to ask the board if they would like to hear from another provider this evening, Ms. Ottinger. sorry.
I thought you said we were done with.
I'm asking, just out of
Okay.
respect for people in the room this evening, would you like to allow further comment from Mrs. Ottinger, who, again, is representing another company, not a resident, not a property owner?
I would like to.
I mean, if it helps us be fiscally responsible, I think
It's
it's a good
not
idea.
going to answer any questions. It's just going to be another go-around.
So, Mr. Disler, I'll look to you as chair of the committee. Would you like Mrs. Ottinger to be able to share her comment?
And is there gonna be a fee associated with that?
No, there's
No.
no fee this evening.
Is there going to be a
No.
time? Is there going to be a time?
Well, she's
limit?
gonna present something, isn't she?
No, she's not going to present this evening. That's
Just
already
answer
been made
questions.
clear. I think
Okay.
she just wants to comment.
Well, yeah, we can hear her comment.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Ottinger?
I'd like to just comment on the rebate, the PPL rebate that they applied for. It's for you, not PPA. So I would disagree that they get the rebate, you actually get the rebate. They can collect the rebate because they're the PPA provider. But the rebate, it's your utility bill. And it's because of you, they can apply for the rebate. So you would get that rebate at the better rate.
Right, but we understand that.
Thank
We
you.
understand
We
that.
understand that.
Okay, Mr. Disler, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay,
Robin, on,
Donna?
yeah, McClure and
McClure?
Solar at Peters and McClure.
Rhonda?
You want to see that on the agenda?
I do.
Yes, yes, that's what
I
we're
do,
saying.
that's what I'm
we're
saying. Yep.
I agree with moving ahead with Peters. With McClure.
Moving ahead?
I would like the RFP.
And Chad?
So before I give you my answer, just a real quick question. Peters, we have a septic system out there, right?
Correct. The drain field.
The drain field.
Yeah.
Is the proposed solar array going to be going on top of that drain field? Or is that?
It's in between, and I'll look to the board to verify this, but my understanding is it's between the drain field and then what is the fenced-in retention pond, the top right corner of the bottom left.
Right,
picture.
yeah, I see the fence and retention pond. I wasn't sure what part of that parcel was drain field and what was not.
Good question.
Drain field is not in the highlighted trapezoid that is there.
Listen, I was hoping you guys would have looked at that, but, we also dropped the ball on the wetlands thing too, so I just wanted to. I'm okay moving forward, but I think even though you do have a valid point, Mr. Green, doing a study would potentially wipe some savings out, but I still think we gotta shop around and be fiscally responsible. So because of that, I would vote for the RFP.
RFP.
So I'm okay proceeding with solar, just to keep the options open.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 for continuing with McClure on the solar at Peters.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
And 3 RFPs. So, looks like we're gonna be moving forward with McClure.
We're going to put it on
But
the
Agenda.
agenda.
Good proceed.
It's just a recommendation right now.
I just don't want anybody thinking we're voting.
No.
No,
That's
just
all.
put it on
And we're not, we're just trying to give you direction,
On agenda.
and so, put it on the agenda.
No, it's my understanding that this all came about a couple of years ago for one primary purpose, to save the taxpayers also in our school district money, to offset our taxes. So we decided on going and researching with McClure to see what kind of savings they could do for us as far as helping our taxes for our residents in our school district. And I think what they showed us so far is substantial, and hopefully, if we, going forward, maybe we'll be able to save some more money through the same process. And if I'm wrong about them, first, us going to them, about saving money.
We did.
I asked that question a couple months ago, if it was gonna save the taxpayers money, like we're not raising our school taxes, and I was told no. So I'll go back and look at that video, but I remember asking that question, if this is gonna help not keep raising our taxes every year.
There's a lot of things that may create us to raise
Keep
taxes.
raising taxes every year, but maybe I'm thinking, sorry.
I don't know how we can decide that.
I don't think it's
Answer that.
gonna prevent us from raising taxes or not raising taxes, it's gonna help, you know, and if it helps to the tune of 20,000, it's 20,000 less that we have to raise taxes, but it's certainly not gonna wipe out
It's gonna help a mill, it's gonna
any
help
tax
1%,
increases that we
It's gonna help
we're gonna have.
2%, what is it gonna help, you know, that's kind of.
But
So
I think
we will put an agenda item on for Peters, at which time the board will have to vote about whether they want us to move forward with that or not.
Correct.
Okay, so do we want to proceed with the main campus this time too?
Yes, I think kind of main campus, and then we'll kind of follow the same, administration will look for same direction.
All right, so switching gears, we're gonna touch on the main campus. This is just an update tonight. You're still at very high level numbers for the main campus because this design is a little bit more intensive. So last time we were here, we were asked to look at two options. The option we have currently at the previous location, and then a new option of what would it look like to do that. So that's what we're going to review. So if you want to turn to slide 2, just as a refresher, the first location you'll see is the lower left-hand corner. This array is 1.8 megawatts. It will serve 100% of the electricity consumption at the high school, middle school, Slaterton Elementary, and the field house. If you remember our preliminary numbers for over 30 years, the most conservative approach is about $2.1 million. So slide 2. Slide 3 shows those financials we've been showing you. It shows that 30-year PPA, $0 up front, 100% generation of electricity. Column 3 is what you pay PPL if you've done nothing. That's about around 10 cents electricity rate that we're modeling there. That's a blended rate for all buildings. Column 4 is the fixed PPA rate. This is the rate you pay for McClure. This includes rebates, tax credits, incentives, and solar renewable energy credits, which McClure takes the risk on. Column 5 is your net savings, and column 6 is cumulative. So on the flip side, we were asked to take a look at a roof option. So if you turn to slide 4, we modeled a roof array at the high school, middle school, and Slatington Elementary and the field house. So 4 out of 5, 3 buildings. Let me start over. So we modeled a solar, the district uses 2.4 million kilowatt hours of electricity. The 4 buildings are the high school, middle school, Slatington Elementary, and the field house. 3 of them have new roofs. That's the high school, middle school, and field house. So those are the 3 roof arrays that we put on. Slatington Elementary, that roof is about 10 years into its life. So we didn't model that roof because these solar arrays are designed for 30 to 40 years, and so we wanted to be cognizant of that. We modeled them pretty aggressively. We filled the roofs where we could. We haven't looked into any structural analysis, so that will be during our due diligence period if the roof can sustain the weight, and also the shadow analysis of how much shadows that the solar arrays would create, and also from HVAC equipment shadowing on the arrays. So looking at that, we were able to offset 47% of the annual electricity consumption, putting it on roofs only. And if you turn to slide 5, those are the financials for the roof. So it's only doing about half. Not to say you can't do somewhere in the middle, half round, half roof, but if we just focus on roof, you'd be looking about a $952,000 savings over 30 years. So for slide 6, a lot of advantages to solar. I think we've hit on most of these. Slide 7. In terms of next steps, we still have a lot of due diligence to do. So I think the only direction we're asking for tonight is whether or not to continue with a ground mounted, a roof mounted, or somewhere in the middle. And then our goal would be to bring this to you guys at the end of the summer on this one.
Mr. Hawes, can you go back to slide 4? Please, so you're, Mrs. Wigginfield, you're proposing high school, middle school, Slatington and Fieldhouse, but I don't see Slatington on here, but is that a definite, that Slatington
I'm
roof?
sorry, it's only 3 roof mounted rigs, so we excluded slating.
You exclude, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that was confusing.
Because of how new the roof is?
Because of the age of the roof.
Okay.
It's the oldest of the 4 roofs, so we didn't include it.
Oh, I got you, okay.
We only put it on the roof that were done in the last 2 years.
And then
Okay,
also
so-
those roofs we've recently replaced.
Yes.
So 3 rooftops, but to power the whole main campus, including Slatington.
It would do 47% of it.
Well, I'm sorry, but it would be, that 47% or whatever it was, would be distributed amongst all the buildings on the main
Yes,
campus.
correct.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
So there, we've had discussion of what the middle school may look like down the road. If we would do any kind of design change at the middle school, how would that affect? Could those solar arrays stay there? Would they have to come down? Can they be disruptive?
We're not far enough along because there's 2 options when mounting these. They can be ballasted to the roof or they can be mechanically fastened. So that would change the answer a little bit of how
Okay.
easy they would be to move. But ultimately, if you would need to get to the roof, change anything under the roof, you may need to remove them.
And that would be at our cost then at that point?
Additional cost, okay.
Mr. Durr, can you share the, when the warranties expire on the current roofs for the main campus?
So the Slatington Elementary roof was installed in 2011. It's a 30-year roof, and 2011 plus 30 years is 2041. And the 30-year PPA is 12 years beyond that replacement year. So you'd have to make it 12 more years with the Slatington roof if you put the solar panels on them. Because 12 years past the replacement date. And middle school, high school, they were installed in 2018, and they have a 30-year life expectancy, so that makes it 2048. And the PPA is for 30 years. That would be 5 years beyond the expected life of the
18.
high school, middle school
18.
field house.
Fieldhouse had the same roof lifetime?
Slatington was
That was done in 2018 also? The Fieldhouse?
Yes.
Yeah,
That was all part of the ESCO project.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
they're
think
all
we're together,
together.
Fieldhouse was on that one or not. Thank
So
you.
we would either have to get those additional years, right, out of the current roof, or remove the solar array and then reinstall it, right? That's what I'm hearing. Okay.
And you do that for us?
We have the capability to take them off the roof. It would be an additional fee.
There would be a fee for that? Oh,
Yes. Nice attempt, I like it.
When,
what's that?
Nice try.
when they, if that would be the directive of the board, to remove kind of the apparatus, like, what do you do with it? Do we have to pay to store it? Can we just put it on our property somewhere? Like, how does that work? How does that typically work?
We haven't been asked to do that yet,
Okay.
so we could store them. We have storage facilities. You can store them here. They're outdoor rated. We just wanted them protected, so at least in a fenced-in area if you come from here on campus.
I'm sorry, one more question. Probably more than one. But what would you anticipate that time span to be from removal, new roof, whoever does the roof, and then reinstallation of the solar?
So depends the size, depends a lot of things. We usually typically can do a roof in 3 months. Over the summer months, we usually have been able to do that. For removing them, I would assume we could try to fit that in a 3 to 6 month window with removal and replacement. Depending if they're ballasted or if they're mechanically fastened, that would be your big
Essentially a whole year to do removal and
I'm sorry, did you say 3 to 6 months? So that's,
Depending if
That
it's
would
mechanically
then-
fastened or ballasted. Because we
but then
get the
that,
full
we would
tear
lose
off.
our solar generating power, obviously, during that time.
Correct,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely.
So then that would decrease the total savings.
Correct.
Okay.
It also seemed like some of that's gonna happen during school time also, then if it's.
I believe when we did the roof at like, the middle school and the high school, I want to say we got those done in the summer. And there wasn't work on the roof
but
during
we
the
would
school
have,
year.
sorry, but we would have the removal time, which could be 3 to 6 months.
Removal time
The,
and
doing the roof for
installation.
whatever time, and then reinstalling 3 to 6 months. I mean, to me, I'm thinking we're looking at a year.
No, I believe Mrs. Wiegenfield said that 3 to 6 month includes removal and then installation of the new roof and then reinstallation of the solar. Like that's all, right, those 3 steps would be in that 3 to 6
I thought
months.
that would be our
Okay.
goal.
Okay.
We could work a second shift if it's during the school year.
Yeah, that way.
We want for safety and personnel. Not to reflux students.
Going back to the cost analysis, the fixed, and if you say we're gonna save an annual of, I don't know, pick a $12,000. If in that year, based on what the rates would have been, within that year, if we don't have a savings of $12,000, every year we would get a compensation back from McClure? Or is it an overall of the period of the plan?
So we're guaranteeing kilowatt hour production of the solar array. So similar to energy projects, we don't guarantee dollars, we guarantee units of energy. So we're guaranteeing that you will have at this rate, this amount of kilowatt hours that you will be able to purchase.
So if we don't use the kilowatt hours, that's when we can sell them back?
Correct. Yeah, so if we guarantee 1 million kilowatt hours and we only produce 900,000 kilowatt hours, we owe you the difference, 100,000 kilowatt hours times the retail rate. If we
And it's
guarantee-
retail rate?
Yes, the rate in the contract. If
Well,
it,
no, wait, that's different.
oh, sorry.
So the rate in a contract,
Yes,
to me, is set.
correct, we're gonna set that rate in the contract.
So every year, you're asking for an estimate of 3% increase every year. So that means that if in 2030, the rate's 30 cents a kilowatt hour, but you set it in the contract at 10 cents an hour, or kilowatt hour, we're only getting the 10 cents, not the 30 cents.
So we'll set it what your rate is today, your retail rate today, we'll escalate it 3% per year over the next 30 years. If there's a shortfall, we'll look at that year, the shortfall, at what that escalated rate is at, and that's what we are. So it's difficult to predict or project what that
Yeah.
rate would be. So that's the way that we would set that up.
And that would come back, again, that's coming back not on a yearly basis? Or you are doing
We
it?
true it up once a year.
Once a year?
Yep.
But I think the question, and I thought this is where you were going, Gail, is that an accumulative thing? Say,
Right.
We're gonna save $1,000 year one and $1,000 year two, now we're 2,000 ahead. So year three, we fall 500 short. Do we get the 500, or do you say, oh, you're already $2,000 ahead, you don't get the 500?
Each year's independent.
Each year is separate. So if we save, and then lose in the third
Right.
year, just hypothetically by numbers, we would get the 500 back.
Correct.
It's
Yeah.
not, okay, you guys got it, thank
Each
you.
year's independent.
I thought
That
that's where
way,
you were
if-
I
going.
was, that's what I was trying to do, thank you.
If we miss by a lot, if our panels go down, that gives us time to fix that and get you back on track.
Or the rates would drop significantly or something, how would that affect that?
So we're setting this up so that you're
It's in the
independent of
contract.
the rates.
It's in the
That's my,
contract.
that's, I guess, what I'm trying to get to, and it goes back to how do we look at the consortium numbers, and is solar really where it's at? I don't know, and, you know, what are we gonna do in 30 years if they're
I feel
here?
like we're at,
Just moving the bubble.
right, at 10%,
I'm gonna let you worry about it, I won't be here.
And every year it's gonna go up. Are we gonna be still in line with electricity, you know, with consortium? You know, is there a savings?
I mean, at the end of the day, when we look at it, you're right. We look at it, if this all trues up in $2.1 million, that's fantastic over 30 years. It's fantastic. That's what our goal is, to look for cost savings in what we do. But if I look at it year over year and how it would affect a $37 million budget that we currently have, and what does that look like? Is 20,000 or 14,000? I mean, we're not affecting, we're saving money. But at the cost of money today and what it is, and you add all that in there, at the end of the day, we're not saving money by doing it. I'm trying to wrap my head around it, I really am, and I'm trying to wrap my head around Peters, I'm trying to wrap my head around this, and the numbers in my mind just are not working out. And I can't get myself to say, this is where it's at.
Because at the end of the day, it's really, long-term wise, it's really not, it's a benefit, but it's not, right? So
Like,
it's.
this is
a
where it's
savings-
going, I get it. And I want to be supportive of that. And number-wise and looking at the financials and where we are,
You're looking for a bang for your buck sooner. Is that what you're talking about?
yeah, I mean, when I look at these numbers, over 30 years, yes, it's fantastic. But interest rates are going up, so that means that not only is our interest rate going up on that, so there's lease dollars, there's all of this stuff that all plays into this. When you start to do annualization of numbers and put it all out there in the full budget and realm of things, this is like 0.001% of our budget.
Just out of curiosity, like, what kind of rebates are we talking about here? Like, what potential rebates? I know it fluctuates.
The current rebate right now is 3 cents per kilowatt hour offset. So for every kilowatt hour that's offset by solar, you get 3 cents in rebate.
Right, that's a one-time thing though, right?
It's a one-time thing. That's from PPL.
Yeah.
And then there's the tax investment tax credit that we leverage 30%. And then, did I miss anything?
Depreciation.
Depreciation's another
Yeah.
one.
But that 30%, that's what you leverage, right?
Yes, which we net off the cost of construction.
So, for the main campus, it sounds like there's a lot of unanswered questions yet, even from the site. Once we get to there, the zoning and the permitting. So I think last time we talked, we were looking, because we purchased electricity for the main campus through July of 2025. So I don't know that we have time, I guess is what I'm trying to say, for the main campus. But I will ask, I guess the question of the committee this evening, do you want to give direction to administration tonight? Or do you want to revisit this in August or September if we have more answers as far as where we are in the permitting phases?
Yeah.
That's my question. Where are we in the permitting phase? We're not complete with that yet, right?
Correct.
There's still a lot of that
Yeah, we're
answers.
still designing.
Answered questions there, okay.
Yeah.
My question is there a possibility, it seems a lot of concern is the ground-mounted solar field. Is there a possibility of doing a combination of a roof system and the ground mount system in that same site? So making that solar field smaller, well, I'll call it on the hillside, right? On the property, in combinations with the roof systems. And would the cost be the same for us? Like, would there be an inherited cost? Because obviously you have another transmission line and all of that. Would that still be incorporated in our plan, or is that something that would be adjusted in our costs?
The savings won't be as good as a full ground mounted system, I wouldn't be able to say how it would compare to a 50% roof or 100% roof and ground.
Well, because if we're going solar, I want the biggest bang for my buck, you know?
Correct.
I want 100%. And I don't want to pay an electric bill for the next 30 years. That's the bottom line. Whatever it may be. And I wish I had a crystal ball here and say, hey, it's only going to be 7 cents, or it's going to be, 50 cents. I don't know. Nobody in this room can say that. So obviously we're going on information as of today, where we're at today, and what our projections have been over the last how many years we have looked at the inflated cost of energy. In my mind, it's not going to go down. It's only going to go up. That's the bottom line, like anything else. So that's my question. Can we do both?
You can do both. I would say your most cost-effective option would be 100% ground mount.
Okay.
But that's as long as the permit allows it.
Correct, absolutely.
Obviously, we have a long way to go with the ground mount system, so I understand.
So, Mr. Crown, you raise a good point, or you raise a good question, though. Smaller in the proposed site, but then potentially an additional ground mount site, right? So then we would be looking at multiple transmission lines, which would reduce our savings. In 15 years, you would have to swap out multiple inverters, right? But is it possible to do more than one ground mounted site if we could find other locations on our property?
Yes.
But then it would be the size of the array field to whether we can get to 100% or not.
Question will be, yes, cost effectiveness. Where does the tipping point for savings and construction costs lie?
Yeah, you got all different fencing, you got all different stuff.
Mr. Williams,
I have a question. The roof mount versus the ground mount, the infrastructure that it would take to place solar panels over the existing parking lots or parking spaces, is that not an option, or is the infrastructure needed to support the panels above parking spaces that much, that adds to the cost that much that it renders it ineffective?
We have not found a cost-effective scenario where we could make carport solar work.
So all that stuff that I see along 287 as I'm coming home in the morning, the sun's coming out.
At the current rates here.
In this area?
In this area.
Okay. And since the picture's up, that strip of trees along the ball field there, has that ever been considered, I'm just curious, has that ever been considered as a site for a ground system? As opposed to the furthest corner of the district
When you say
property?
the ball field, do you mean the baseball, softball field?
The baseball softball field.
So the strip of trees along
To the left of the diamond.
Yeah.
Oh, back
At the
there.
end of the stadium, and to the left of the baseball field.
So not in the presentations that we've been looking at. That is also, I think, right on the edge of the current retention pond. The project that we're going through for baseball, softball, so I don't, if the board would like us to explore that footprint, we could do that.
I don't remember, with the baseball softball, is the current retention pond being moved?
I think it's being enlarged.
It's being
It's being enlarged.
over and in, I believe, right? Like into the tree line and back a little towards the school.
So it's gonna include what's currently there, but then being expanded, I believe. Is that accurate, Mr.
Yeah, I don't know how many square feet or cubic feet it is getting expanded, yes, larger.
Well, yeah. So towards the tree line and towards the school.
Yes, that's what the plans showed.
I only bring it up because that would be closer to the school district. It looks like they would have to run shore lines. You don't have to cross any creeks or any like barriers there. Everything is right there in that area.
So would the board like McClure Company to explore relocating it, I guess what I'm gonna say, kind of above the quarry, closer to the playing field?
I thought we did.
We can dig deeper.
I don't remember seeing that on one of the.
I thought when we talked about it, we said
I
that
guess
this
what's
was the
looking
only
for
place
is-
that this size array, if we keep this size array,
The whole array.
The whole array.
this whole
only spot on
Whatever
campus
you
could
call
put
them.
one array. Yeah.
This would be the only place that we could fit it. That's what I recall hearing.
The size of it, yes.
Maybe I'm incorrect.
The size that's needed to get 100%.
100%.
So maybe if you take what's
Like you said,
mounted on the buildings,
Yep.
subtract that, see what you have left over, see if it would fit in the suggested area.
correct.
Up there, so that you would possibly fit that in. Maybe. Worth a shot, I guess.
So are you saying rooftops and a new ground mount location?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, quite honestly, I think going the whole 6 acre Love in the Woods thing, that's just not an option for me. Me personally. But if you can condense, use a combination of buildings, shrink that footprint, put it in that smaller section, disturb less natural habitat, I think that would be a compromise. If we could make it happen, that would probably be the best one.
That would also lower what we're going to be able to get though, right?
I have to look at
I
that.
think so, but I would have to see what, you know, if there's a way they can figure out how to get to
You know,
100%.
To do all that work and to do all that and lose the benefit of the, what we can get, to me, is not worth going to.
That's why I asked the question.
How would that affect all the HVAC units and everything that you guys just put on all of the roofs? How would that affect all that stuff?
So our current layout does take that into consideration. There's service clearances around each of the rooftop units that we want to make sure that we allow for pull things in and out of units. We also have to do shade studies, so the rooftop units will throw shade in certain areas of the roof, so that would all have to be taken into consideration when we find a layout.
Yeah, it's not- I'm not so sure about the roof.
Mr. Assault.
Is the board finished with questions? I wanted to make sure the board was done, and we're not gonna forget you, don't worry, does the board have any other questions before we go to the audience?
I'm just
That's what we've been
concerned, I'm
trying
just
to do.
concerned about the roof, like she mentioned shade and stuff. I don't know if we're gonna get enough off of there to do it.
It's already reduced to 47% if we do that.
Right,
Well,
and then they
that's why I
have to
said
check
we're
the
reducing
shade,
it.
and they have to check the shade and other things too, so I don't see it going up, I see it going down.
Yeah, that 47% is going to go down.
Yeah.
I don't see a hurt of, like, we're going forward, checking those locations out, and those things can come back to us with facts and figures in September.
Is September reasonable? Okay, and that would still, if the board decided to go forward, still give us enough time to get to,
Summer 2025.
yeah, okay.
But I think, Robin, I'm only,
Okay,
I know you
that's
can't
fine.
see your back's turned, but, you know, there were some people had some questions, and I think, you know, just take a couple minutes and
Question.
get those questions or comments,
Go ahead.
so.
The permitting process you guys are referring to is the EPA study looking into the permitting for a solar field or disturbance of the initially proposed site, is that correct?
It would be the initially proposed site.
Does the permitting, if we're talking about only a partial disturbance down there, how does that affect the permitting process? Is there a difference to that or not?
We're still working through it.
What is the current status on that study?
We're designing, it's still under design.
Were there environmental aspects around that end that need to be clarified regarding the spring, the wetlands, the wildlife
Correct,
disturbance?
yeah, that will be part of the due diligence. So we have to complete our design, and then we have to consult with the different permitting groups to ensure that we're meeting the requirements and that the locations are.
And what usually is the duration of that process?
So far, we've been going through with Southern Columbia School District. They're in a wetland, and we've been able to get through to a final location in a wetland.
And how long did that take?
About 6 months in that process.
So would it be added 6 months from today or
No,
from
no.
September?
No, you should have that answer for you by September.
Okay.
So, just for the record, that's 2 school districts that we don't like to hear about. That's strike 2.
Okay, give me your green pen, you can have your green pen there.
Just throwing it out there.
In terms of other ground mounted systems, what is with the space to the east of the field hockey area across the road, for example? All the areas where we hold the bonfire around the parking lot of the middle school. I mean, if we start adding all these areas up that I want to see when I drive by there regularly are unused, other than we maintain and mowing and bonfire.
So, unused, yet very forward-facing. And in the very preliminary conversations that we had, one of the concerns was eyesore. Are they gonna be an eyesore if they're street side on like Center Street, down Bulldog Lane? So we look to put them in
I have
ways.
crappy roads here.
I'm sorry?
I have really messed up roads here.
I know, I drive them often.
So-
So I don't, if the board would want to consider street side ground mounts, we would need to know if they want us to look at the field along, was at the top of Center, down Bulldog Lane, those type of spots as well.
Maybe that's my unknowing on how these processes work, but from a business perspective, if I'm looking to hire a contractor to do work for me, my expectation would definitely be that I would not have to direct my contractor to do exactly what I tell them to. I would expect for my contractor to present me a variety of different options that I can choose from. And I would, if McClure is our provider, why aren't you coming forward with different options, especially since the last meeting you heard the call for different suggestions regarding the financial flexibility, different buyout options, different other rooftop. Okay, you presented one thing and you drew a couple blue boxes around there. But again, now you're telling me a couple blue, the shading of the units. Why aren't we having more of these answers readily presented from you as the provider? This is something I just don't understand, why we have to ask for these things repeatedly for every detail. How do we know that we don't miss anything?
Just for clarity, you may have asked, but the board has not asked
But why
McClure.
does the board have to ask the provider?
Because this is a public entity governed by 9 individuals, so we look for direction from them. This is not a private company. It's different, Mr. Hassall. We're working
I
with a
understand
board of
that they
directors.
spend my money, or at least a portion of my money, as my taxpayers' money.
Understood. I do not disagree with that. Administration takes direction from the board, and then we give it to whoever we're working with. That's...
Process.
If I may speak?
Sure.
So I know you said about an eyesore to Bulldog Lane and all that, but putting it in the, by the ski club there is an eyesore to many families that live there. So I think we should be exploring other options, other grounds that we could potentially use that is of the district's. I mean, if we're gonna do it, you know, we might as well look for other options and the use of this land here, rather than, I mean, we already know a lot of the community is opposed to that area being torn down. So it doesn't hurt to explore other options. That's my opinion.
So
And I think this is my biggest point. Solar or no solar, I have no issue with that, whether it's ground or some roof mounted or an overhead structure. But the biggest topic, disturbing wildlife, just disturbing an ecosystem to save them money or purchase green energy, I don't think this can be the right approach to that problem. And whether or not we save 100% or at least 80%, I think there's still a benefit to the district to save a portion rather than just 100%. We always do not get the biggest bang for our buck.
So just to add to that, I'll mostly agree with Mr. Hassel and Natalie. I think I just want to explore options. And any option is a good option as long as it doesn't involve taking down 6 acres of woods for the sake of going green. Any other option I'd be open to talking about, but I think that strictly go into that format, I would not support. But going back to seeing anything we can do mix match, I understand, some things may be a little more financially better. And I agree, any savings is better than no savings. But yeah, I would not be okay going to the original agreed upon.
So I'll look to the committee. I'll look to the board members on the committee. Do you want to explore what I'm going to refer to as like street side options?
Question about that though. If we put a street side options, I know it's our property per se, but do we have to look at other things like and ordinances that could prohibit us doing those things? I mean, I know I can't do, I live in the township, I own my property, but I can't do everything I want to do.
We would, just like we are looking at what we're allowed to do for the wooded lot, we would have to look at if it's the field next to Center Street.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I mean, so that could be another issue that we would have to face.
Yes.
And we could have an issue with that. So we maybe better explore other options in case we do have issue, other options would be best.
Maybe I'll rephrase the question just to kind of move it along a little bit. Is anybody on the committee opposed to us looking at those options?
No.
Okay, I think that gives us the direction then.
Good reframe.
So, please explore, we can show you the property that we own, coming in, kind of across the street from the practice field, hockey field, along Bulldog Lane, the field in between Center Street and the bus parking lot for the high school, for the middle school. We can show you where all that property is. I'm sure you're aware the fields are, we just gotta let you know that it's our property. Okay.
I'm comfortable with that. I heard what you said, Chad, but if we put a little piece here and a little piece here and a little piece there, are we gonna get a whole lot of savings out of that? And then you start to look at, your inverter that you have to replace, and if you have an inverter, if you have 8 inverters at 15,000,
Listen, I agree 1,000% that that's.
I think all that has to be rolled into the numbers before we just say.
If I have, right, I understand that completely. So if I had to choose between leveling 6 acres of wetlands to save maybe 100,000 a year, maybe, and scattering amongst to save 40,000 a year, maybe, much less than that, probably. I'm still not okay with leveling 6 acres of wetlands. Like if I had to choose between that, I would say scrap the whole solar thing, let Mother Nature alone, and
yeah, I think there's a break point there, and if it's 100,000 and 3,000, then I wouldn't be in favor of it. If it's 100,000 and 90, I can.
even at 100,000 savings a year, it is not worth that for me to get rid of a wetlands. It's just not. You can't put.
Have we defined that they're wetlands yet?
That's why they have to do a study.
So we don't know if they're wetlands
I don't
yet.
think we do, Bob, no.
Okay.
I don't think we know. That's what
We're assuming that maybe they are, but nobody said it's wetlands, correct?
We're not that far.
Okay,
Which is a whole new conversation, if that's
right,
fair.
correct. I understand that. So we don't have all the information to even make those decisions yet.
Right.
But I do agree we could look for alternative sites.
So, excuse me 1 second, Mr. Hasselt. I'm sorry, is it, because I heard it pronounced 3 different ways this evening, so could you please pronounce it?
I thought I said it wrong too.
That's okay. Hassled.
Hasselt.
Hassled.
I'm gonna work on it, Hasselt. Thank you. No disrespect if I say it improperly. What I'm hearing is, there's a lot of questions, we gotta bring it back for September, we're gonna explore other areas around the district. I'm gonna look to Mr. Disler, if you want to continue the conversation, because right now administration has direction that we need. Do you want to continue the conversation, or do you want to move to the next agenda topic?
I will say, if everyone's satisfied sitting here this evening, we can move on to our agenda for the rest of the committee.
And define everybody.
Board members.
Unready.
I think we repeated
I think we discussed
Can I ask
pretty
one
much.
question though?
No, you're done, that's it.
You're done. Can I ask you a question? So we are in the consortium for electricity, correct?
Correct.
Could you help me understand what that means?
So I'll turn it over to Mrs. Walters, but
Sorry.
essentially, the consortium goes out to bid for the best rates for us, and then we have to tell them whether we want to participate or not.
So we have the choice every year to say yay or nay?
2 years.
It was a 2-year commitment, however, we are able to convince them for the Peters property to allow us to only do 1 year.
Okay. So if we choose to go outside of the consortium and go on our own and do that every year, so we're not locked in, have we seen benefit in doing that, or do we choose not to do it?
We have been all the way back to probably Chris Stafford or better. Over 15 years, we've gone with the consortium. Because every time you go with a consortium, the consortium says, your school district, this school district, this school district, let's add all of it together. You get a better rate. You get better rates.
You're buying them.
And and the district, the number that the district would receive would be different than a residential district.
Correct.
A residential property.
Correct.
Correct.
Correct. Yes.
I'm just trying to put it all together. That doesn't make sense that if we're doing it every 2 years and the consortium's supposed to be there and there's only 4 schools currently on solar, that means nobody's really getting off of it yet. And we're still talking about solar. And I look at the yearly savings, and the main yearly savings we're not seeing until year 22, where we're even in the $100,000, that if we're doing it every 2 years, does solar make sense, period? I'm just trying to wrap my head around it, guys, and I'm sorry, I know this is completely against what everybody else is sitting here, but as a finance person, it's just not making sense to me in an overall concept, and that's why I'm trying to understand the consortium purchase of it. I appreciate the 3% increase and what that looks like and the payback, I get all that, but I'm just not, I feel like there's something else we could do instead of solar. It just, if I look here and I look at what we're gonna talk about on the budget, to save $2,800 on our budget this year, that's like telling Mr. Hill, don't buy 6 extra things of paper, you know? And I don't mean, that's what it sounds like though, you know? And I keep going down this path and we spent, I don't know, this has to be meeting 8 on this. The amount of time we spent on it and we're still at the same spot. And I feel bad for these individuals who keep coming back meeting after meeting, and I feel like we're dragging them down the wrong path because I'm not sure we're ever gonna get there. It's not fair to them, it's not fair to the community, and it's not fair to us sitting here every night. If somebody can help me understand the numbers a little bit better, I'm willing to talk about it, but I'm not sure that you will, at this particular point in time, for either location, get me to say yes to either proposal on solar.
I have similar thoughts too, and I think it's tough because realistically, no offense to you guys, you know, these guys are in business for a reason. They're making the money, we're saving the pennies, and it's gonna take a lot of years to get those pennies.
I just look at the numbers and the budgets that we just did and where everything is, and thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Chad, you have any more comments?
Similar vote as Gail.
Okay, looks like we're gonna close the meeting for the rounds.
So,
And technology.
I think you still need
So,
information from Dr.
I'm
Link.
just gonna ask one more time. We're gonna come back in September, and the board will present again with alternate locations. And that's the only expectation for September at this point, with all the numbers that go along with it as well. So, Mr.
Well-
Hassall, respectfully, I'm going to call the question to our board chair, to our committee chair again. If you want to continue to accept questions from guests in the community, guests in the chair.
Do we have any more?
One short one.
Okay. Go ahead.
Only regarding the alternatives, does the board, or do we have an expectation to make clear on what options? Do we need to specify that to look into different alternatives? For example, working into that proposal, the 20-year-ish lifespan of Sladen Elementary's roof. What does it do if we need to replace the roof and continue with a 30-year PPA? What is the cost or estimated cost to remove it, put it back on? That we have that type of detail in there. Because at the end of the day, I look at it, this is a spreadsheet, a very simple one, to put these options in and out. And my expectation would be, as a business owner or responsible for a business, that if I'd be signing a contract, that I can ask these questions, and with modern technology, that I can have a more or less ad hoc answer in a meeting, or if it needs to be specified to the provider, here's all the different options that I would like to see. That's just my last comment. Thank you.
Would you be able to satisfy his request to have some of that information? Thank you.
So I just thought about one other question, thank you, sir. So let's say we go through this with the buildings thing, right? Let's say we go that route, hypothetical. And we're a couple years into it, we put a new roof on this building, and we look to expand. Is that an option? Like if we do the 3 buildings, right, the high school, middle school, and the field house, and we replace this roof, let's say, I don't know, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and we want to expand the solar cells and put them on there, is that something, how complicated is that process?
So we can make provisions for extra feeders to be brought in. There's stuff we can do in our design to make it future ready for future areas.
What kind of expenses would be incurred by us if we were to do
We
that?
can get you that information.
Okay.
That would be a separate project though, right?
We can do
Well,
things in this project that would make it future ready to add different areas. If you just tell us which areas you want to be able to add later, we can do preliminary sizing and know how we can make it future ready.
Kind of just piggybacking off it, I just want to kind of like
Absolutely.
dot i's, cross t's. You guys have been out here enough, you know, we don't want to, try to leave no stone unturned, I guess.
Yeah.
And did I hear you say that the whole structural thing for doing things over a parking lot just is not feasible at this point?
At your current rate, we have not made it cost effective to do carport solar.
Okay.
To add to what you're saying, this is just to maybe simplify this so you can, the roof that is the oldest roof and would need replacement soonest. My suggestion, just my suggestion would be to not put them on that roof, to put it on the roofs of the ones that are good for 30 years, and then explore the other areas along, Bulldog Lane or whatever that could help.
I think that is.
Okay, I wasn't sure if we were including that roof there, okay.
That is a proposal in my
As far as the roofs, we're still not sure structurally if they are gonna be able to
If they
support
were,
it.
right.
Correct, these are just high-level numbers to
Okay.
start. That would require a separate due diligence step.
Thank you.
Yep, correct.
Still no RFP recommendation on this part either.
We're not even at that point yet.
Yeah. Not even allowing other presenters. Would that hurt the board to have over the next couple of grants committees that we have another presentation?
I will take direction from the committee on that. And if we do it, it needs to go out. I'm gonna recommend that we do a full RFP and you allow administration to work with an expert to draft the RFP.
I think we're done with this, I don't know.
Yeah. Any other questions? We're gonna close
In my
the
opinion.
buildings
I
and
agree.
grounds and move to technology, please.
Keep it simple.
Thank you.
Oh, by the way, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right. Good evening, everybody. I'll keep it brief. The first three items that I have on the technology are items that we're looking to put on the board agenda for Monday. The first is a Chromebook projector accessory lease. This is already included in my IT budget, just this is more a formality every year. We're looking for, what we do is we get a $150,000 lease, which is a 3-year lease, $50,000 a year payment. That's how I pay for the Chromebooks at Peters Elementary, Slatington Elementary, and then also the projectors. So again, that's already in the IT budget, just looking for formal approval Monday night at the youth board meeting. The next item on there is the Adobe Creative Cloud for the high school. This is for some of the programs that they use at the high school. We had this, again, the last couple of years, this was on the board agenda. It's $2,460 coming out of ESSER funds. This is the last year for the ESSER funds. And going forward, this will be part of the high school budget starting next year. So that item will be on as well. And my third one there is the Lightspeed Classroom. This is the classroom management for the teachers for the one-to-one. Again, this is coming out of ESSER funds. We did ESSER funds the last couple of years for this. It's $8,592. After this year, when ESSER runs out, this will be part of my technology budget. So do I have permission to put that on the board agendas for Monday? Are there any questions about any of those?
I just have a question on
Yep.
the accessory projector lease.
Yep.
Didn't we talk about a lease like last month or the month before?
Actually, this was the equipment that we were going to purchase under the lease. Yeah, we talked about the equipment for that. You're thinking about the lease, that was for the
Okay.
high school one-to-one?
Yes.
That was for the high
I was
school
like, wait,
staff
is this
one-to-one?
different?
Yeah,
Yes.
that was a different one.
Totally
This is the yearly one that we do for
Okay.
the Peters Elementary, Slatington, and also for projectors.
Gotcha.
Yep, but good memory. You
And
were
then
correct.
just on the Adobe Creative Cloud, just curious how they're using it at the high school? And
They're using that in, they use that for video production classes. They use that also, Mr. Shuey teaches a class or two that uses it for art, so different kind of art classes. They use Adobe Photoshop. They use it in, what else? Mr. Barnes uses it, I know, in his classes for yearbook, things like that. So yeah, it gets used throughout different ways
Fantastic.
throughout the high school, yeah.
And then I apologize. What the heck is Lightspeed Classroom again?
Lightspeed Classroom is a classroom management for teachers. Essentially what it does, it gives the teachers, teachers can monitor the students' laptops, Chromebooks, from their desktop. So they can see what the students are doing. They can see, like, they can keep the students on task. They can send a link to the students and automatically open it up on all their devices at one time. They can actually communicate with the students too, like ask them, hey, are you done with your assignment, things like that. Students can ask for help right from there. So it's like it's a classroom management tool used for one-to-one devices.
It's like a Teams.
So it gives teachers classroom
And
management.
that's different than what they can do in Canvas? Canvas doesn't
Yeah, this is different.
any
This is-
aspect of that?
No, this is totally separate from Canvas. This is something where they can, basically it's a classroom management tool. They can lock the internet, so students can't go on the internet, or they can only allow them on Canvas.
Got it.
They can allow them on YouTube or just one video, so it gives them a tool to use within their
I use that
classrooms.
at home.
It's very useful. Yeah. And again, we're using ESSER funds for that now, but next year, that'll be part of my IT budget next year.
Mr. Hill, just to clarify, though, that functionality is not in Canvas?
Not with this. This is different from Canvas.
I know it's different, I just wanted
Yeah, that
to make sure that the
functionality is not- no.
functionality is not in Canvas.
No, that is not.
was my
no.
question.
No,
Okay.
this is something totally separate. Yep, and it's different functionality.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Chair, I would recommend we put this on the agenda.
Okay. And the last item I have in there is just for information. We have approximately 10 pallets of old electronic equipment. Really, there's a lot of different equipment in there. Chromebooks that we have the screens ripped out, some laptops we have the screens ripped out, some old desktops that are probably 10 plus years old. We have some old Dell projectors that we pulled out as printers. There's also some some old TVs in there. We also have the CRT TVs. We also have some computer monitors. So we are going to send that to recycling based on our policy. If it's under $100, there's really no approval required. It's just there for informational purposes. So That's all I have. Does anybody have any questions?
Okay, thank you, Eric.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Greg, and we'll close technology. And then turn it over to Donna
So
for finance.
we will open the Finance Committee meeting by Mrs. Fink giving us an update.
Okay, food service, I'll be also very brief. I put out an email today actually for all students, staff, and community members for our upcoming summer food service program, where we'll be feeding our camp students as well as the community ages 18 and younger. And that will start June 12th already, and go through August 10th. We have 2 sites again, same as last summer at our high school and at Slatington. There is a weekly sign-up form that we encourage the community members to complete, so we get a rough idea of our meal counts every week. So that has been created and posted already. Unfortunately, we have to serve meals at our sites. They have to eat on site. I know I got a lot of emails from parents requesting grab and go, which I totally understand the convenience of that, and that would be great. But for some reason, we still can't. At this point anyway, they change things on us a lot, so maybe, in a couple weeks it'll change and we can do grab and go. But for right now, initially, we have to provide a space for the community members to eat. And of course, the camp members eat on site with breakfast and lunch, free Monday through Thursday throughout the summer. In regards to the CEP program, so that's the Community Eligibility Provision Program that we've been operating under this current year, for universal free meals for breakfast and lunch to all of our students. We are going to be continuing that next year. Our percentage, it's all based on our directly certified student population, which district-wide is at 44% again, which is the same as it was last year. And then just to explain, how we get our funding through this program versus the prior program, they take that percentage and they times it by a factor of 1.6, because under this program, we actually don't require anybody to complete meal application forms. Because like I mentioned before, it's all based on our directly certified population through SNAP, TANF, Medicaid, things like that. So when you times it by the 1.6 factor, we get reimbursed at the free rate, which is our highest rate per meal for lunch. At 71% is reimbursed at that highest rate, and then the rest, the 29%, we get reimbursement per meal at the lower rate. So that's kind of how that works. And so far, I know we still have a little bit of time till the end of the school year, but this program we've been able to, sustain ourselves financially through this program. So just in terms of like our meal counts being higher, participation rate overall has been a lot higher this past year and a half under this. So I will be putting out more information to the community about it. As we have our beginning of the year packets, which I'm hoping I can complete in the next 2 weeks or so that they're ready for July 1 to be sent out. And the main difference of what it's going to include is we will not have the free and reduced meal applications, so they do not have to complete those. But just overall updates, just notifying the community again that there will be free breakfast and lunch for 2023-2024 school year. And that's the main topics that I had for tonight, but if anybody had any questions about either of those 2 programs.
So you got a lot more participation since
Yeah.
there's no cost.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's fabulous for the feed kids.
Well done.
Go for it. Sounds good, and then they won't have to fill out the free and reduced applications,
Yeah.
which were really a challenge.
Yeah.
Thank you. So how are you doing with your funding, like in case anything goes down? Are you okay? with your budget?
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk to Sherry more in detail about that, but I was looking at our budget summary, and like, it's so hard to say like today where we're at, because like I just this morning submitted our June, or May, month of reimbursement.
Correct.
So if I have, 80,000 coming in, that's not hitting the budget summary yet. It's like a month delayed everything, so it's like, and then you factor in with the payroll, that's the other thing that makes it hard to say like today, what do we have in case something goes down. I can't believe our dishwasher at the high school is still, I think we've gotten really lucky, I think, Greg, with that situation. But yeah, two of our dishwashers are at like 42 and 43 years old at this point. So those are our top like heavy hitter items. But we do have the food service equipment grant coming up in September that we can apply for again, and go from there. But yeah, we've been lucky with nothing major.
Greg, keep updating them all together, okay?
Yeah, Greg's crew's like performing miracles over here somehow, some way to get us through, so.
So we need a 40-year warranty on the next dishwasher. I'm getting a 4-year.
Looking to get a 3-year today.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that was it. Thank you.
Thanks, Nikki.
Thank you.
Okay, Sherry.
All right, so we're going to do a budget presentation, but before, and I have done a condensed version of it, but before we do that, I just wanted to let the board know that we did receive our renewal rates for our liability insurance and commercial package insurance and everything for next school year. It is, they had asked me to budget original numbers were $191,000 to budget for it. It did come in at $177,000, so it is under what was anticipated. When they did pull that in, our liability insurance for our school police officers is now being carried under our total commercial package premium. So they were able to roll that in and save the additional cost with that. So that was a savings. They said that your police officer insurance is more readily available to people now. Like at first, they were very scared and they didn't know what that was going to be with having armed police officers on campuses and what that was going to do to the market. Since they have not seen a huge uptake in issues with that, the premiums are now coming down on them. So they were able to roll that into our total premium package. What they did offer, though, as an offset that we can take is we can up our umbrella coverage optional limits. So currently we have a $10 million limit on that. We can up it to $15 million for an additional $3,000. So they were kind of recommending if we wanted to do that, I would just have to tell them, and then they would just write in the different, the budget currently has the 191 in it because I just recently got these numbers, so I haven't been able to adjust it. So the money is in the budget right now to increase it to the 15 million, which is the coverage for things like school board protection, any kind of charges that we have with parents filing against teachers, all that kind of stuff is all covered underneath that.
And it would still, you said a 191 is in the budget.
Correct.
By adding the $3,000, it would still just be at 180 then.
It would be a 180.
So it would still be.
Correct, it's still under the 191.
I think you should add it.
Okay. Is the board in favor of adding that, upping it to 15 million?
There would still be an $11,000 saving,
$11,000
savings.
You said it covers all kinds of.
Yes.
It'll cover more
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, it's all kinds of liability issues.
Yeah,
Yep.
I agree.
Yeah,
Okay.
for that little bit of money, I think you should.
Everybody
Okay.
in favor? Okay, go for it.
All right, so now budget presentation. Steven? So this is our final proposed budget for the 23-24 school year that will be on the board agenda for approval Monday evening. Next slide, please. There has been, I guess, some flurrying questions on what those ESSER positions are that are currently in the budget, that are in the budget for 23-24. These are the costs with the anticipated increases next year for the 24-25 school year. because those positions will no longer be funded by ESSER. They will finish out the 23-24 school year being funded by ESSER. 24-25, they're going to have to hit our regular general fund budget. So if we keep these positions, the cost for the ed technology administrator, the elementary, and the technology integration specialist, those higher up positions are $430,000 and change. And if we decide to keep the paras, that's $154,000 and change. So total ESSER positions in the 24-25 school year would be roughly $585,000 to keep all of those positions that would have to be assumed by the general fund.
That's all costs.
That's all costs. That's benefits. That's correct. That's everything. Mhm. Next slide, Stephen. All right, so this is our estimated fund balance as of June 30th of 2023. So we originally, for this school year, we're going to use $2.3 million out of fund balance in order to balance the budget for 22-23 school year. Of that $2.3 million that we would be using to balance the budget, $1.1 million of that was bond payments. I still had in that budget $3 million worth of bond payments because at that point in time when we passed the budget, we hadn't refinanced those bonds yet. They didn't get refinanced until September, okay? So I've been saying all along that we're gonna use about $300,000 in fund balance this year to balance the budget. Not to balance the budget, $3 million in fund balance in order to make up the lost gap in the 22-23 school year. We're actually going to put about $800,000 back in, but keep in mind that $800,000 is because we didn't pay those $1.1 million in bond payments. So of that money that I didn't make, we're going to put $800,000 back into fund balance. Okay, moving forward in the budget from now on is only the $2.1 million that we have in our fund balance in our general fund budget in order to pay our bond payments, because that is what our bond payments are moving forward. They were 3.2, they're now down to 2.1. Okay, so at the end of this school year, June of 2023, I'm figuring we're probably going to end up a little bit over $15 million again, but that's because we didn't make that extra $1 million in bond payments this year because we only made 2.2.
Because we refinanced.
So
we saved money.
Correct.
Is what we did by
correct.
doing that.
Had we made, keep in mind, had we made that $3 million in fund and bond payments, I would be short that $300,000, which I've been saying all along. But because we didn't need to make the bond payments because we brought them down, I'm going to put about $800,000 back in the fund balance. Okay?
So that's good.
Good.
And you can see I do have an extra fund for debt service is up at like 3.5 million. That's what we saved over the last 3 years because we took a reprieve on those bond payments for 2021, 21, 22, and then we refinanced in 22, 23. So because of all that, we realized about almost $3 million in fund balance.
That was a great idea you had.
All right, next. So district expenditures and revenues. So everything is in the budget right now as we sit as of today. So our current expenditures are going to be $38,498,189. Our total revenues are $37,942,309. But that does right now have the board approved 5% tax increase in there. So when we get to the next slide, I'll tell you that if you're going to go with a lesser tax increase, you're going to need to add more money out of fund balance in order to balance that budget.
If I just make a comment on that, board approved ceiling of 5%.
Correct.
Right.
Correct, Matt.
Just so-
Board approved ceiling of 5%. Correct. And we can't go above that now because we've approved that for our preliminary budget. So the only way we can go now is down.
But you didn't give us a flat budget without a tax increase.
Correct. Right now, this has it in there. This has $767,000 of a tax increase in there.
So can you show us one without that 767? $760,000?
All you have to do is take $767,000 off of that 37,694 or add it to the 555, and that's what we're short. So if you take the 555,880 and you add 767,000, because that's what a 5% tax increase gives you. 1.3, yep, 1.3 million is what you're short,
We're not.
balancing the budget.
We're not gonna do 1.3 million.
All right.
Go ahead.
Next slide. So our expenditures are 38,498, our revenues are 37,647, but again, that includes $767,000 of a tax increase in there. So the additional budget shortfall is the 856,619 fund balance, using that healthcare, 294,739, which we are definitely recommending doing that because that is why we have committed fund balance for. Our additional amount needed to balance the budget is 555,880. So of that 850 at the end of the 23-24, if we land at around the 15.1 million that I think we're going to end this year at, and we use $850,000 out of fund balance, we're at 14.3 million at the end of next year. Now again, if you currently we're at $767,000 worth of taxes. If you decide to only raise taxes by $500,000, you're going to take that $276,000 and you're going to add it to the $850 that we're short. You're going to do that all out of fund balance, and you're going to take that $267,000 away from that 14 million. So you're going to be down right around 14 million in fund balance.
So we go from 14.3 to 14 million.
You could go to 14 if you take your tax increase from 5% down to, it might be somewhere around 3.5%. So we'll look at that.
And
Yep.
you'll show us what
Yep.
even lower is than that?
Yep.
I don't like that we're going from the very high to the
Yep.
bottom, because we said we weren't gonna go to the top. That's just my
Correct.
concern.
Correct.
So,
Yep.
but you keep telling us we're getting the top one. Okay, go ahead.
The top one is because that was what was approved in the preliminary budget,
Right, yeah,
knowing
yeah.
that you could
I know,
go
but
down.
I'm not
Yep.
going that high.
We can come down, right?
So next one, please, Stephen. So again, we have the governor's proposed budget that right now is still up in the air. A lot of stuff going on in Harrisburg, but no definitive line on where they're landing. We are hearing that it's supposed to be some significant increases again through K through 12 education, but just don't know where it's going to land. If we do get everything that they're saying, these are the amounts that we will receive additional in basic ed subsidy of almost 244,000, and in special ed, almost 147,000. So of there to 380, almost $400,000 in additional revenue if the governor's budget comes through close to what he predicted. for
Wasn't there
basic ed.
another item, Sherry, that the governor was looking at where we could have gotten some more money, or am I?
That is, I didn't put that in here because that is the stuff that is for specifically to be used. It's kind of like a grant. In other words, it's going to say it has to be used for mental health. It was
Okay, I think that's what
140,
I'm talking about.
yeah, 140 some $1,000, something like that. I think it was, and it was earmarked for specific use for like mental health.
But we could offset some things in our budget with that 140,000 that if we don't get it, we would be paying anyway.
Possibly, depending upon, right,
'Cause like
exactly.
the psychologist or other things?
Right. If they fall within what, probably more than anything, right, we're gonna get what we can use that on, and if we've got stuff in our budget that we can use it on, we would look at off of that.
So that's
yeah.
another 140,000 that could offset.
Could be, could be, yep.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so, again, as we said at the last board meeting, we set it at 5% preliminary budget approval, which is $767,000 in additional revenues. But again, the board has the final decision and can only go down from there. So Lehigh County at a 5%, just so everybody knows what that looks like. For a median assessed value home, it's an additional $172 a year, $14 a month, $332 a week, and 47 cents a day. If they do Northampton County at $45,000 in the median assessed value home, it's $185.70 for their tax bill for the year, $1,548 a month, $357 a week, or 51 cents a day. And Remember that the slight difference is due to the recalculation and what you have to do to equalize mills between stebs, which PASBO is trying to get that thrown out, let's just say. But it involves law, rewriting law in order for that to happen. So they are pushing for it. Next slide, Stephen. So, again, I said we can't increase taxes over the 5%. So Lehigh County tax bill, you can see what a 5% would look like, 4.5%, 4 3/4, 4.25, 4%. Each time you drop it by 1/4%, you're going to drop the Lehigh County tax bill by $9. Every time you drop 1/4% in Northampton County, you're going to drop that tax bill by $8. So I've done the calculations as low as 4%. You can go lower than that. The next slide, I'm going to show you overall tax dollars, and we go a little bit lower than 4%. Stephen, next slide. So again, I said the 5% is the 767. If you take it as low as 3.5%, that would be almost $501,000 we would see in tax increase. And again, wanted to see something here. Should I bring this back up? So, yeah, I thought I did, but I didn't. Yeah, so it's $500,000 increase. So if you, obviously what I have in the revenues right now is 267, so that's, or 767, so that's where I said you basically can add $267,000 to take out of fund balance if you would end at a 3.5. If you go lower than that, then it's more money that would go into using fund balance in order to balance the budget. It's roughly around $47,000, $48,000 every time you drop 1/4%.
So I know you.
Say that again, Sharon, I'm sorry.
About every time you drop between full percentages and total tax dollars, it's anywhere between $45,000 to $48,000 in additional revenues that you're losing.
We're losing. So Sherry, you said there is a potential to get $540,000 from the governor right now, the way you have been told that the budget would come through.
If the budget passes as the governor presented it, we
Correct.
could, yes.
So
Yes.
that 540 would make up a lot of that money that you have up there.
Right, but we're still using $860,000 out of fund balance before we even talk about
What's your 8,000? Was that for the healthcare and?
the healthcare and the 555 that we're already short at this point with a 5% increase. So if you're going to take it to a 5%, that $800,000 that we're short currently right now is going to be over $1 million.
So the budget already has numbers in it,
Right.
assuming the 5%. So if we look at the 5%, anything we drop that tax increase to, say we put in at 3.5, now it's $500,000. We're already short $850, so now you have to add $267,000 to that $850. So now you're at $1.2 million that we're short on the budget. So yes, we might get $400,000. So we're still at $800,000 short to pull from fund balance, even to drop it to 3.5%, assuming the governor's going to budget. Did I say that
Correct.
correctly?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Not that I'm in agreement with all of that. Just recapping.
And a zero,
But that all
a
depends on-
0% tax increase, we would be 1.3 million short.
You would be short the 767 plus the 800 and some that we're currently short right now, so 1.5,
Okay.
almost
Okay.
1.6.
With the medical in there as well, right?
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
Yes,
That's what I
yes,
think. Okay.
sorry.
We're saying the same thing.
Yep,
And
yes, we are.
The budget has current salary numbers
Yes.
in it?
Everything's in there as of, correct. Yep. It has all of the revenues built in. It has from the potential increase to peace or to medical premium as well.
So my question is, are there anything that we can take out of the budget to reduce it?
Not much.
Not that much, but I'm just saying, I mean, you always, you give us a budget and say, okay, this is with 5%, like, so it's this number. I don't know how you go about, saying, oh, this we need in here, this we need in here. I don't want to do a line by line. I'm just questioning, is everything in there a need versus a want?
I would say, I do say right now that every position that we have in there is a need. We want to be able to continue to keep moving forward.
Not a personal position, I'm saying,
No,
is
I'm
there
saying
anywhere else you can
positions.
cut?
But then we're looking at programs.
And I will say, probably, I can talk from experience, and in the time that Matt and both Tanya have been here, we have not increased building level budgets. Any budgets. Every year I go to them and I say, same budget as last year. And if they're adding a program, or if they're adding something, they know exactly, as the high school I know is having Adobe in next year that now isn't going to be paid out of ESSERS. They have to find something that they're going to cut in their budget in order to get Adobe. So it's not like we've increased their budgets along the
So
way
they are
as
doing
well.
that then?
They have been status quo for probably a good 10 years. We have not increased them at all.
When it comes to especially the building level budgets, not payroll or benefits.
Correct.
Every year, there's a lot of hard decisions made.
Yes.
What are we going to keep? What are we going to add? What are we going to get rid of?
So what was the fund balance at the start of this school year?
14.1.
And what is it now?
No, I have to be more than
14.3.
that. Hold on, let me look. Hold on.
This year it's 14.3, that's what you had predicted.
At the end,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's what we're saying, 14.3.
Yeah, at the end of the year, I'm thinking it's 14.3. It was 14.6. Yeah.
And how much of that fund balance is dedicated, untouchable?
All right, so you have committed fund balance, and you have assigned fund balance, and you have unassigned fund balance. So committed and assigned is never not untouchable, because the board can earmark how they want to use that every year.
Okay.
Yeah, so there is 2.3, hold on, let me pull up that slide quickly.
2.5 million unassigned, I think.
Yeah, there's almost 10 million in unassigned, in assigned. Committed is a little over 2, and then unassigned is a little bit over 2 million.
Chad, go right ahead.
2, 3, 6.
So I'm just gonna piggyback off of what Mrs. Colt asked earlier, and ask the difficult question of we're always looking to raise and expand and expand. And myself and a couple others have expressed concern years ago when paying for positions at ESSER fund, and here we are having this conversation where these positions that were created that were not present prior to COVID, we're now faced with the discussion of budgeting of those positions that were created. If I remember, if you're able to back up, I think I wrote down, is it 584,000 for all of them combined?
Yep. For the 24-25 school
Now,
year.
that's not this year, school year, Chad, it's next school year.
Okay, so.
Yeah, this year it's
So this
still
year
coming
it's-
out of
That
that,
goes
so
into
yeah.
our regular budget.
So right now, we're
But
not
where
paying
I'm-
for it this year.
Where I'm getting to is, of those ESSER positions, I know this is a difficult conversation, are there any of those that we can entertain removing to help our situation?
So I think from being on prior, some of these were discussed prior to ESSER coming on, that as we went to the one-to-one commitments, we had known that we were gonna come to that point where we needed some of these positions.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, COVID happened, and I think they came a little bit faster than we had hoped. The good news is we were able to pay for them through ESSER. However, I think moving forward, in order to kind of keep us moving in that direction, the technology ones in my mind, seeing where we are today and just the stuff that Mr. Hill just put in there, they're almost necessary at this point. And then the paraprofessionals, unfortunately, we're in a district, you hear it when Ms. Fink talked about the cafeteria budget and where we are on those numbers and what that looks like. Those paraprofessionals help in some of those services that we need. So based on the numbers, because we cut them out in years prior, we had them so low that we were not servicing our students in those paraprofessional needs. I don't know if we can get rid of those either, to give the due diligence to our students.
I want to bring up the Canvas, because I don't know how that all came into play. What is that costing us, pretty much,
Do you have
to
the line
implement this Canvas program?
the line item for Canvas for next year? And I know we're deciding whether we're going to do a single year. Mr. Pine, if you can pull it up, either a single year or a multi-year agreement.
I'm after reading the Bulldog Bark and how the students respond to Canvas. 74% of them hate it, and I'm concerned about that. And a lot of them are saying that they prefer the Google Classroom. I don't know if we've ever surveyed the teachers to see where they stand. I know if you do a little research, you can find that it's half and half, where some teachers say they like Canvas once you get to be able to adopt it and use it properly, where others say they hate it and they want nothing to do with it. So I just don't know. How valuable is this Canvas and how much is it helping the students in the district? We already have learning curves from COVID, and now these kids have to learn these programs, and teachers have to learn these programs, and it's taking away from their ability to actually teach the kids. I mean, what time are they being allocated to learn this type of software? You know, I don't know, because I'm not there. That would, I guess, come from you and
Yeah, so Canvas right now is annually costing us $7,200 a year.
okay.
In terms of the article from the Bulldog Bark, and I had many conversations leading into that, and obviously we didn't want students to not have a voice in what they're experiencing right now. I would put my money on the line that a lot of that is growing pains. That right now, and I would also put my money that when you are talking to various groups of students and teachers, you're going to see a spectrum running from satisfaction with those who've experienced it the most to most dissatisfaction with those who are just entering into it and learning how to do it. I think that we're going to continue to see that arc bend, right? From an instructional and curricular standpoint, it's night and day. I mean, what we could have accomplished with Google Classroom, what we were accomplishing was very functional. It was very much what we needed for that time, and I think that's why the district made the decision to actually pull back from Canvas at that time, because we needed simplicity. We needed something very simple. And I'm going to talk during Education Committee about some of our PD offerings for the summer and the way that we're moving with Canvas from a curricular standpoint and what we'll be able to deliver to students as we continue to grow with it. It's just a whole different thing. It will provide a wealth of opportunities in terms of differentiating and providing opportunities for learning for a wider variety of students in ways that I don't think any teacher could have ever imagined coming out of their prep programs.
How much time can we expect that these teachers will acquire the skills to be able to navigate this system? Have you used this before?
Oh, yes. I use Schoology. I'll get on my little soapbox. I was a principal at Nazareth for 13 years. We were in school warning. We went to Schoology. Schoology's Canvas, their brother sister. Do the same thing. First of all, it's a educational warehouse. It's not a program. It's not something kids have to learn. Yeah, they have to learn where to find things, but it's a way of teachers posting their lessons, their homework, tutorials. They can communicate. When we get into the upper stages, you're going to have kids being able to work with kids without teachers' help, a lot of student collaboration. We are just toddlers right now. It took myself and my team and my staff 5 to 6 years to really for it to explode, where teachers right now are learning how to put things together to post it in their Canvas book. That takes time. It takes time to develop it, takes time. And then after they develop year one, then they go back, oh, that stank. I'm gonna change it. I had staff making their own tutorial videos. I had students making tutorial videos for other students that were posted on teachers' Canvas websites. And that's really what it is. It's really a website management to organize the classroom. Parents can go right in and see what the objectives are, you know, what the expectations are. The communication is incredible. We found Schoology, I'm not going to speak for Canvas because I think they're very similar on what they do. But we found that it took longer in the elementary schools for kids to adapt to it and teachers. It's a little bit different learning and different opportunities. However, I will tell you now, looking back at our school district, it's exploded K to 12. You know, sure, kindergarten kids, a little bit harder to manipulate, you know, the one-to-one, but it does happen. I will tell you, in the world of education, if we get rid of Canvas, we are taking a major step backwards in comparison to making our students competitive when they graduate. That's my feelings. I'm all in on it. I think this is going to change our school district. And when you look at our performance, not only does that position, which I'll defend inherently, it's tied to curriculum. Right now we're doing a curriculum review in every area. And I'm going to say, Mr. Pine, I don't want to speak for you. How many years will it take to do the final complete curriculum review?
I mean, some areas we're making progress faster than we thought we would. In other areas, we are still doing some refining that I thought we'd be done at the beginning of this year, right? So I don't want to speak to everything being equal, but I mean, I still 100% believe that we set up a 4-year cycle to get through a full curriculum year, and we will have a full curriculum in 4 years. But I always tell people that is a cycle, which means in 4 years we start over again, which means we go through a refinement process. And I can't see myself being happy with our curriculum before at least 2, if not 3 of those cycles, where we really get to test things, we get to evaluate results, and then we get to make revisions and move forward again in another cycle. So for me, this is long term. I mean, for me, this is, if I'm here, if I'm able to stay here, this is the rest of my career, right? Moving through Canvas and LMS, a curriculum revision, getting this district into that place it's potentially the rest of my career.
And I think the two are tied together. And without a doubt, if we want to see our student scores improve, we're going to have to invest the time and the money it's going to take to get us there. And we have never done that in this district since I taught here. And I'm going to be dead honest with you.
And I do just want to say one more thing about Canvas. I mean, so again, with $7,200 is the bottom line for the cost of Canvas, but I do understand that we are investing time in training our teachers and making that transition. And we did, and I know I've said this before, but I just want to clarify, we did make a strategic choice to stage that in, which we knew was going to lead to some difficulties with some of those tier 2 groups that we were moving in. We knew the high school as an initial stage was going to be much easier because we already had some early adopters already built in. We did strategically make the choice to get early adopters at the elementary and middle levels, which led to some discrepancy between what was happening in this classroom as opposed to this classroom.
Correct.
We had 2 choices there. We could keep everyone on the same page, or we could start building those power users up in order to disseminate that. And we knew that there was going to be this stage in the middle. So when I see that article in the Bulldog Bark, and I mean, listen, I know those kids. I knew those kids at Slatington who wrote those articles. These are good, thoughtful, well-intentioned kids. I don't think their opinions should be ignored. I just also I believe it's early for us to be saying that those opinions are formed. So I'd love to see them write an article somewhere towards the latter part of their high school career for the.
I would love to see that change over time, that their feelings in regards to the Canvas. And I agree, I did read both sides of it. But I just want to know, are we spending too much time? Are we taking away from teachers' time to actually prep and do what they need to do, where they now have to learn these software programs that are difficult to navigate, especially for the older population of teachers who aren't that savvy? How much time are you having to spend with them to really teach them?
So I would liken it again to curriculum, right? So in the curriculum process, we go through 3 stages. The first stage is setting the objectives, right? Figuring out what it is we expect you in this study to do. The last stage is figuring out, well, how are we gonna know we did that? How are we gonna measure that at the end? The third stage, in my mind, that's Canvas. That's where we really begin to build out that structure for the teachers. So it's time, but it's an investment. And so just like the curriculum writing process, I mean, that's a lot of time. I mean, you hired a guy to take it on, right? And to orchestrate that across the district, in addition to the ed tech stuff. Both of these projects that are kind of, it's not everything I do, but like the biggest pieces of what I do, they just take time. They're gonna take teacher time, they're gonna take collective expertise, and they're gonna take some building.
Well, it's not just curriculum either. We're missing a big part of that, assessment. So how do we assess our kids? And you know, what does assessment mean? What is our philosophy of assessment in our school district? How does that mirror the tests that our kids are expected to take at the end of the year and their performance? That all comes together. You know, Canvas, one thing aside, is just a management thing for teachers, so we could look at curriculum and what's going on in the classroom. I hate to use the word, but I'm gonna use it. Policing. You inspect what you expect. That's the bottom line. The minute you take your eyes off it, the problem's gonna grow. Plain and simple. So it's a big-headed animal to take on, but I think we're so far behind the 8 ball. It's a need, it's a must, and it would be unfair, and I think unjust for our students. Some of those positions in there are actually teacher leader positions, I'll call them, in technology. Those are, you know, sure, Mr. Pine's in charge, but then it disseminates down through, what do we have, 3 coaches?
So right now, we actually have 1 tech integration specialist.
That only
with
one?
2, but yeah, we reduced that to 1.
For 125 teachers. Okay, so,
We did have 2, but then there was a spike in the elementary class where
so we took one. Okay.
One was a classroom teacher, became a technology integration specialist, and now they're back in the classroom.
Okay.
That was a class size.
When you know you're gonna be there, and I'm gonna brag, we took a school that was in Warning, and it was National Blue Ribbon School in 7 years. When you know you're gonna be there is when teachers start sharing with other teachers what they're posting on their Canvas in their classrooms. I don't know where we are in that process yet, but teachers love it. They would love to share.
So if I can right now, we actually already have a situation come up at the high school where a teacher's assignment changed, and the teacher was teaching that course that is a power user for Canvas, is now passing over an entire class to that other teacher. It's not the perfect class, not the class that we end up with at the end, but it's a good class, well designed by a teacher who is really taking using Canvas. So we're already seeing that benefit, that a teacher is going to be coming in and teaching a new course now, not only receives a paper document with a curriculum, but actually receives some design instruction.
And I also had the same opinions of teachers when we first implemented it. They were against it. You know, I had this old statement, change equals work, work equals pain. And you hate to say that, nobody likes to change. I just like to come in and do what I've been doing the last 25 years. Well, the last 25 years you've been doing it hasn't been done very well. We need to change. We've got to rip the Band-Aid off, and we need to figure out what we really need to do. And I think we're in the first step. So as far as I'm concerned, untouchable.
Okay, so my next question then would be, had we not had the ESSER funds, I assume we would have brought this to the table anyway? We would have asked for?
We were already having conversations about coaches and having an administrative position dedicated to education technology, curriculum and instruction, and I often refer to it as CIA, curriculum instruction assessment.
Yeah.
To me, they're
all together.
You know. So yes.
So we were able to pass a
new-
2.5% tax increase last year.
So I'm going to go back to finishing my original
I'm
answer.
sorry.
That's okay. The elementary kindergarten position was an unforeseen one, and that was triggered, in my opinion, due to the pandemic, because so many 5-year-olds were kept home one year
Right.
when they would have kind of naturally matriculated in, and then all of a sudden they came. So that elementary teacher position evolved rapidly of the kindergarten position. And then for the paraprofessionals, if you recall, back when this all came in, I had said several times throughout all those public meetings, a number of these paraprofessionals at the end of the upcoming school year, we are going to either have to let them go or to repurpose them into other positions through attrition when other people retire or resign. The ELDP paraprofessional, that also evolved rapidly. I'm going to say probably over the last 2 years. Our non-native speakers is just, like many districts in Pennsylvania, is just exploding. So I know this is not an easy message to hear, but as your superintendent, I feel obligated to tell you, if we want to continue to move forward, I see every single one of these positions on here as being mission critical.
And then am I also correct that the approximately 584,000 ESSER funded were not in last year's budget? Because they were funded through ESSER. So that money now is being put into our budget.
Well,
So it was
No,
not.
no,
in-
it's ESSER this
For it
year
this
as
year.
well.
It would be for the
It's
24,
ESSER as
25
well
school
this
year.
Next year's
It's
budget.
not coming up in next year's budget.
It's next
It's not
year's
coming,
budget.
it's coming the following year.
Yes,
Right.
the following
Okay.
year. It's
Right.
not the fall- it's
But
the
the
following
point
year.
is,
They're
Well,
counting
that money was
section.
not in the two, when you said what you said.
Oh, when I
That
said
was,
the
Yes.
that was not, that was
2.5%.
not, that money was not in that budget.
Right.
Okay.
With the increase.
They're just warning us, so when it comes up, they can say.
Right,
"Oh,
yeah.
so."
Right.
I think COVID and having our students basically being taught at home through the Band-Aids that we had to get through it really showed me how far behind we are in a school district in the realm of using technology as a tool for learning. No, I don't want students to be on their laptops 24/7. That's not the objective. The objective is that we use technology as a tool to teach kids, and there are many ways that can happen where things are interactive. You know, we want kids hands-on. Kids love technology. That's all they want. That's why we carry these little boxes around, and everybody's on them, because they want technology. That's how they're learning, and that's what higher education is doing. You know, today I have this little job at Lexus, and I'm watching the technicians. They're around a computer all day long, and these are our mechanics. This is where life is, and the more that we use technology as that tool, it's just going to help our students. We need it as far as making them competitive. That's the bottom line. And I'll just shut up from here on out.
I got a nickel says you won't. I'm with you.
Can you make it a quarter? Come on. No, I'm passionate about
See,
education.
you owe me a nickel, I told you.
Yeah, I understand, but when I was helping my granddaughter go through that process during that COVID time, man, I was so upset knowing where I came from and the opportunities that those students at the Nazareth School District had that ours did not. And we were way behind. Way behind. And I say way, talking 8-9 years behind. And I'm not exaggerating one bit. So that's where I stand. Now I'll shut up.
25 cents.
I'll raise you $1.
Anyway, back to the budget.
Yeah.
Where are we?
So,
We're done.
So it's Monday night, it'll
we're
be
done with the
presented
presentation.
again Monday night, and then the board will have to come up with a consensus of a percentage of a tax increase that they're looking at.
So the rubber hits the metal, or the road
The rubber
next
hits the road
week.
on Monday night at the board meeting. Yep,
Okay.
Can you go with one last thing?
Sure.
The fund balance again.
sure,
When you say committed,
correct.
about 2 million committed,
Yep,
what is it committed to?
sure. Health insurance increases and PSERS,
Okay.
PSERS increases.
And then assigned.
Assigned is assigned for multiple things, so 850,000 of that right now I have assigned to balance this budget. Then there's technology, there is one-to-one computer insurance, it's replacement equipment, long-range maintenance stuff, future debt service payments, if we ever need to tap into paying any of our bond payments by using some of the money that's in here. That's most of the stuff that's committed.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And the 2.3 you said was not committed to anything.
2.3 is
Unless a
unassigned.
tree, falls through a roof.
Right,
okay,
we
got it.
can, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, we have insurance for that.
Yeah.
That was a bad,
We do.
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So at the board meeting, we said a 5% increase was the absolute max that we would go. Doesn't mean we have to do 5%.
Correct.
It just means we need to have 8 people, 9 people, a majority, say what they would like the tax increase, if any, to be. So I don't know if anybody has any discussion they would like here, or do you want to wait till Monday night to have that?
The only comment I'll make is, don't just think of it as a 1 year. Think down the road of the choice we make today, the choice we made last year, the year before, and what that does and how it impacts year after year, and what that looks like. Sometimes you don't get it back. Not saying I want 5%, believe me, I don't.
And I'm saying, I wonder if there's any way we can pressure the government to give us more.
No, I don't think, that's not gonna happen.
It's not gonna happen this year.
No, it's not gonna happen this year, but I mean,
I don't think it's gonna happen.
something's gonna have to happen.
I mean,
Our taxpayers can only pay so much. That's my concern.
To that, I would comment, if you want to probably make one of the, if you want to direct your efforts towards legislative changes, join us in directing them towards how charter and cyber charter schools are funded.
Absolutely.
If that was removed from our budget, this conversation would last about 30 seconds. I'm not saying that to be snarky, but that would give us more money than what the shortfall is currently.
$2.5 million or something.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So, I administratively, we have written those letters, we have talked to our legislators. If anybody needs sample language, we have it for you. You don't have to come up with it on your own. We have it. I'm sure you read it about it all the time in the legislative reports.
Hey Natalie, you want to take on that role as far as championing?
So legislatively, who has been opposing them, other than everybody?
Opposing the changes to those, how they're funding.
Yeah.
There are, we used to call them PACs, political action committees, right? So privately funded groups that funnel a lot of money into campaigns, and just kind of follow the money. It comes back to, okay, we're gonna vote in favor of this to not change the law. And legislators are, they like those revenue streams, for their campaigns.
Could I make a statement? It's 20 after 8, we've been here 3 hours, we still have 3 committee meetings to go. Could I suggest maybe we kind of stay a little bit more on task than we've been drifting all over? Not that it wasn't good discussion, but, then I'll hear from people like, oh, the meetings are going on 9 o'clock, and, but we're making them go to 9 o'clock.
These are pretty impactful decisions we're making.
I didn't say that, Gail,
I
I'm
think
just saying.
sometimes we
I
need to
think
do
we
this. I
drifted
mean,
from
there
the
are
agenda
times when we
on
come to
a
committee
few
meetings and
items
we're
here.
out like that, so
That-
it's a give and take.
It's
Trust-
just my
trust me, Matt. Hey,
suggestion, if you want to keep dancing.
I hear you totally. I'm the one who was like, I'm
If you want to
leaving,
keep
but
dancing, keep
I'm
dancing,
Okay.
just a suggestion, that's all.
I just don't know, is it gonna take a long discussion then Monday night, or what? So that's all. I mean, I don't.
I'm sure there's gonna be further discussions Monday night,
Okay,
I would think
so,
because we're voting on something else on Monday night as well.
oh, okay,
Yes.
Teachers agreement, so.
okay, so, I don't know, folks if anybody wants to say anything else now, or wanna wait? I don't know. I mean, I know I have some numbers, I'm not sure what everybody else has, and I just, that's what we need to figure out. What we wanna do.
-5?
I wish, Chad, I super do, I wish. Never gonna happen that way.
We lose that charter school, we could do -5.
Yeah, you can go get rid of that charter
Well,
school.
That's,
I'm saying, if you can get a grassroots movement going
That'd
to
be nice.
pressure them, that would be freaking awesome.
But there's a-
The other area to go is our economic development for Lehigh and Northampton County. There's meetings that are out there monthly. We're bringing no economic development into our school district at all. I don't know if they don't want to, don't hear it. I can't say they don't hear it because I know Dr. Link has been there multiple times. But that's the other avenue where we need to bring in other things like businesses. And I know nobody loves to hear the word warehouse, but man, if you put one warehouse in Northern Lee High School District, this conversation goes away. You put one 55 and older community into this area, this conversation goes away. And it's just those onesie thing, that one niche that we can get. And unfortunately, the worst part is our community is the one that's being hurt by it because we can't do anything. So if we don't put money into the budget to educate our students who are members of our community, who we want to have come out to be successful individuals, then we're doing no service to anybody in our community in two ways. One, we're charging them a lot of money and we're putting out students who aren't getting the education that we need to put them to. That's the downside. And those two things, go out there and talk about it, ask about it, find out why we're not able to get it. Go to our borough meetings, our township meetings, our economic development meetings, go to our legislators and see that. Unfortunately, they're gonna be the ones to make the changes at this point. All we can do is keep doing what we're doing and unfortunately putting tax increases that our community members, our residents have to deal with.
Thank you. Anybody else for the good of the order? No? Okay. Then I think finance is done. So we'll have a discussion Monday night, proposals for whatever number. So first, as long as everybody's first motion is seconded, and then we take a vote, and we go from there. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, I'll open up the education committee meeting. Dr. Stoker, you have 5 minutes.
Number 3, here we go. All right, thank you. The first thing that we have this evening are our student handbooks. Can I actually have can you steal that out of Dr. Link's computer?
What?
So our first handbook that we have is the elementary handbook. Mr. Briner is going to go ahead and present the information for that. Once I could pull it up.
She was just like,
I'm going to stand up here just because the table looks full and I just feel awkward sitting in the back, talking.
Wherever you need to go. Can you slide that?
All right, so, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the education meeting. I'm just going to be going over some changes not really changes, some updates to the elementary student-teacher handbook. Really the updates, other than, just to briefly summarize, other than, minor changes with personnel, schedule, the district schedule, the real additions that have now gone into the handbook are the addition of the information regarding FlySense, which, if you remember, the FlySense is the devices that are being installed within the district that detect vaping. So there's information regarding that that's now been added to all our handbooks. Additionally, there is some information regarding threat assessment teams and just notification around that. That has also been added. There is some updates to the registration system and for registration and withdrawal based on the changes that are occurring and going to a more online process. But the biggest change in the elementary handbook really comes in terms of grading on pages 47 to 48. One thing I should have said, everything that is written in terms of changes that is highlighted in yellow are additions or what is going in, and everything that is strike through and listed in red is what's being taken out. So the biggest changes in the elementary handbook really come in terms of grading to reflect the changes in grading practices that are now going to be happening at Peters, really around standards-based grading. And so prior to this coming school year, our grading practices were pretty much listed the same. Now they're different, so we had to kind of split them out. And so on those 2 pages, it talks a little bit about how Peters is going to standards-based grading practices. It also talks about our Encore classes that are grading and how their grading practices or the descriptors that they're using in grading is going to reflect or kind of marry with the Peters standards-based grading system that they are using, which is a 3-2-1 system. And we are at Slatington adopting that as well, just for consistency purposes in our Encore classes. So our Encore descriptors will also then be reported in a 3-2-1 fashion, kind of K through 6. So that's one of the big changes that is happening, and with that change at Slatington, that also changes how we have to kind of do our honor roll. So our principal honor roll is now updated to reflect that change, and also the honor roll is updated to reflect that change. Pretty much everything else from a grading perspective in Slatington is all the same. There are some other minor tweaks within the handbook. Our updated Title I documentation is also included. Some minor changes to different things just to update to current practices, either with an extracurricular activity or our lunch program. So certainly I'm not going to go through and read everything else. I just wanted to highlight and summarize the bigger changes. But if there are any questions or comments, I can certainly answer.
Is it possible to get a sample copy of what a report card would look like?
Yes, it is. And so one of the things with report cards, just to bring up, Slatington is going to be updating their report card slightly, mainly because of integration with Canvas. Okay, so I was going to present that actually at our August meeting.
Okay.
The changes, it's gone through our curriculum meeting, or our curriculum council. We're ready to go. There's not anything real big in terms of Slatington, but there is some changes about the way it will look and some updates to teacher comments. At that meeting, we could also provide a copy of the standards-based report card.
Perfect.
Once it's all finished and ready to go.
Yeah, I'm sure you've got some work to do yet. So.
I believe the one for Peters was attached to one of the education committee agendas a
I
while
must have
back.
missed it. Okay.
If not, we could pull those and send them out.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, but
Thank you.
I know that there's a little bit of just finalizing that
Yes.
needs to be, Mr. Schneider needs to do with the help of the IU, as well as I have a mock-up copy, but that's not
Yeah, that's
technically
fine.
the technical copy
Yeah,
yet.
when you're done.
Okay, perfect. We will have that for you in August.
Thanks.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Middle school, Mr. Hauser.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Mr. Briner added some clarification on some of the things that are in there that are also general to all the handbooks, the fly sense, threat assessment updates, so I'm not going to get into all of those. You will see the similar setup with the red strike through deletions and also the yellow highlighted additions or clarifications. We had a couple general maintenance issues, formatting issues and some subtle word changes that are throughout that I'm not going to explain all of those. You'll see those. The most substantial changes to the middle school handbook reflected what's going on with our new schedule. We put the new schedules in there, color-coded, make them nice and visual for everyone to look at and peruse. So 7th and 8th grade versions are in there. We also updated, because of this, our 2-hour delay schedule and how that will work. There were other additions to our multi-tiered system of support explanations regarding how MTSS works and operates at the middle school level. Connection to our essential skills that we push in all things that we do, but specifically how that ties into the MTSS process. We have also updated our code of conduct to reflect what is being done with our Inspire program, so that parents and families and students can see a direct connection between what's in the code of conduct and how we handle that from the side of consequences, but also the side of intervention and support for students that maybe are going down a road that's not so good, and we just kind of steer them back where they need to be. So I think it really does a nice job of outlining all of our different student supports. We eliminated any references to Google Classroom and the flex period because those are now obsolete, moving to Canvas, and our new schedule no longer has a flex period in there. Other than that, most of the updates are simply general housekeeping matters. So I'll take any questions that the board or the community may have. Thank you.
Okay. High school.
Just one quick question. What grading system do you use? Do you use the 3-2-1 also, or?
No, we're in a traditional percentage.
You're
and
still
ABC.
on that, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Bailey.
Elementary is also on that, just on their non.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I just want to make sure that they're there.
Hello, everyone. First of all, I want to thank you again for hiring me. It is the best place to work ever. So I had the best first 3 weeks thanks to this guy and Mr. Hauser, Mr. Kleiner, and I made it to the back row, and it's probably my first meeting. So I'm not sure. I got there before Todd did. So I was going to move if Hauser came and kicked me out. So anyway, so thank you. So. Well, I'll tell you, the best way to learn about the district is to be assigned a handbook as your first task, and you can pretty much ask me anything, and I can probably find it for you. So what we did is, Mike and I and John, we really took a look at the handbook, and it was more not content that we changed so much. I mean, the required things that Todd and Dave talked about, certainly the fly sense and all of that. But it was very much more user-friendly, get it into a workable format, where then when we do make some major content changes, it's going to be a lot easier to do. And you'll understand, we inherited a document that was very much cut and pasted and copied and pasted, and so hopefully you'll just see that it is very much more user-friendly. Dave was very gracious in that I didn't even know where to start. And I was like, Dave, can I just take your structure? And so when you look at the middle school and you look at the high school, it's very similar in the way that they look, which makes sense anyway. You want it to be seamless for parents. This is who this is for, the kids and the parents. So moving from middle school to high school, they won't see many things that are different. However, I know that they did focus on a couple of things that were very important in their handbook that did change. We've had a lot of discussions lately about, safety and making our procedures aligned middle school to high school, what they do, we do, so that the language, we're looking at that, we're looking at simplifying the language, and so really, replicating very much of what the middle school had as far as, drills. What is this type of drill? So the teachers know exactly what it is. The kids, they've practiced it from the time they were little. So why would we go and change some of those things, when they get to high school? And make them, quite honestly, more complicated. So we're trying to simplify, we're trying to clean up. We did that with safety, we did that with school-wide positive behavior support, again, replicating and aligning it to what the middle school has. We already did have the same program, but sometimes the way we worded it or said it, it just made it more complicated. And is this the same as what the kids have been doing in 7th and 8th grade? Yes, it is. So there's going to be no learning curve for those kids, because they're going to know it and have lived it for 2 years already, if not, more than that in the elementary schools. So that's pretty much what we have. More structural things, but certainly safety, school-wide positive behavior support, the things that we really needed to address and simplify and clean up content-wise. That's what we did in those areas. again, thank you. Cool. Any questions for me? No. Thank you so much.
Any questions, comments on the handbooks in general? All right. Can we have permission from the board members present to move that for a motion to be approved on Monday evening? All right, lots of thumbs up. All right, the next one is professional development for the summer. So some things that we're looking to offer our teachers. Mr. Pine.
Sure. All right, so I'll be fast. Last time I was here, I talked about ways that we're going to make sure that our students are engaged all summer long through our various programs. So over the past few weeks, we've been working on what it's going to look like in terms of offering opportunities for our teachers to be engaged over the summer. There is something in here for June, but providing that break, but then also providing the opportunity when they have the mental space to learn, to have some opportunities to learn. So the first thing that I've listed up there is last year we ran a 2-day, well, it's actually a 2 half-day workshop on Canvas. This year we're actually expanding out our in-person training, and we're going to also do a 2 half-day workshop on the STEEL standards, the new science standards aligned to the NGSS. Miss Gabriella Wilder is going to run that. She's one of our biology teachers at the high school, and she's getting some additional training as well in order to kind of make her our resident expert on this transition to the SEAL standards. We're putting this in over the summer because it is really going to be a major shift, and I think I've mentioned that before. There's going to be a major shift not only in terms of what's in the standards and the writing of the standards themselves, but also in what happens in the classroom. That'll run August 7th and 8th, and then back to back with that is going to be Canvas Mastery, Amplifying Pedagogy and Engagement Beyond the Classroom. Actually, ChatGPT wrote that title, so we were struggling to come up with the title, and we told it what we wanted, and that's what it came out with. And that'll be run by Miss Felicia Dunham on August 9th and 10th, again, 2 half days. And the focus of that really will be making that transition from the functional uses of Canvas, which is really what we've been using. Some teachers have been designing instruction. Some teachers have been just posting assignments, right? Everyone's been entering this at different levels. This really will be a step-by-step walkthrough in the creation of a unit that has good, pedagogically sound structure and has all the elements that are really effective for students in learning with technology. So that will also be running. Prior to that, earlier in the summer, we are also promoting. We've been promoting over the past couple months, but it will be in our brochure to go out to the teachers tomorrow with information about all of these sessions. Their participation in the IU21 math series for any of our math teachers. They're running these basically over 3 days. The first day we'll have a K-8 focus with a presenter related to creative mathematics, teaching students to engage with mathematics, not simply as numbers on the page, but as the building blocks for a whole lot of things in the world, right? And then grade 6 through 12 focus will be high intensity instructional techniques, which is a local Pennsylvania-based expert in mathematics instruction at the secondary level that the IU is bringing in, and then teaching math to English learners, the K through 12 focus, and I believe Dr. Stoker is actually also attending that one on June 15th. So we are promoting that because we really like to see some of our teachers get out there and learn that and bring some of that back to us. And then the last thing that I have on here, in addition to we're offering a whole bunch of asynchronous options, including some additional options related to school safety, social emotional wellness, indicators of bullying, self-harm, things like that through our Safe Schools platform, and all of our other instructional asynchronous asynchronous instruction on the platform. Is we are really encouraging our teachers to attend the 2023 Educational Community Summit, which is being hosted again by Whitehall School District. This is a program that began last year with us, Whitehall, and Catasauqua School District as initial partners, and is now expanded and is going to be including teachers and administrators from Northwestern Lehigh, Southern Lehigh, and Salisbury School District. This is 100% a local teacher-led conference, really, if not, it's a conference. It was really, really cool to attend last year and see teachers learning from other teachers around the Valley, and I think it'll be really exciting to see that now expanded to all these other districts in the Valley as well. We do have our own teachers who are going out. We've had several submit proposals. I know that Ms. Dunham's received 2 opportunities to present, one on Canva and one on artificial intelligence, AI in education, and we also have Dr. Manny Gonzalez, who's going to be teaching, who's going to be running a presentation on English learners and English learners in the regular education classroom. Yeah, that'll be really exciting. I'm sure we'll have something to say about that over the next couple months.
So these are all flex opportunities for our staff.
Correct, yes. So that's how we're pushing them all out with an explanation of how they can use those in order to earn those flex hours and differentiate their own professional learning throughout the course of the summer.
Good. And how many teachers participate? We don't know, obviously, this year, but what do you expect?
Sure. So ballpark last year, Ms. Dunham's 2-day presentation, it was about 20 to 25. I don't have an exact roster in front of me, but when I stopped by, it was, and some only did one day as opposed to the other, whereas this year actually it is required to attend both if you're going to attend, because we really need that continuity over 2 days. I'm hoping for somewhere near that with the science one as well, because we certainly have a lot of teachers around the district who have their hands in science education, and I think it's a great opportunity for them to experience a little bit of that NGSS. The EdCom Summit, I want to say we maybe had 8 or 9 attend last year. I would definitely love to see that grow, and I'd love to continue to see our participation as presenters grow, because we've got a lot of great things going on here.
Last year for that was the inaugural year.
Right, sure.
Just trying to
Figure it out.
kind of beta test it.
Yeah. No, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea.
So. As quick as I could be.
That was good.
That was awesome. That was good. You get an A. Anybody else have anything for the education committee? Okay, it's closed. Let's move on. Policy.
Policy. Dr. Stoker.
No, you can't go.
All right, thank you. So we have a few policies on here for this evening. The first one is policy 117, homebound. This policy was last revised in 2007, so it's been quite a bit of time. This came up for something that we wanted to look at because we do have a few students that are using homebound services this year. So when that happened, we looked at it, we went back to PSBA. They have a policy that was most recently updated in 2015. So even though it's not super close to 2023, we figured it's closer than 2007. So we updated with regard to the policy that they had available from 2015. That really took that policy down to bare bones. So we took what we had, the content of what we had in that policy, and we put it into an AR. So the policy itself is very small and just kind of hits the main highlights, and then all of what we do in our district and how we get students into homebound, how we provide services, things of that nature are part of our AR now. Within that AR, we also have some sign-off sheets that we're incorporating as part of that, just our procedures and what we do to get payment out to the teachers who are participating as the leaders of those homebound experiences. So any questions on that? Okay. Do we have permission from the board members present to move homebound to a first reading for next Monday? Yes.
Sure.
Okay. The next policy is 251, students experiencing homelessness, foster care, and other educational instability. You may recognize this because this is a policy we just looked at very recently. It was approved by the board in April of 2023. However, when different law firms look at that, some questions came up. So this is actually being revisited based upon legal guidance coming out of our consortium. So I am going to turn this part over to Mrs. Dada.
So we were ahead of the ball on this one, and then the legal counsel caught up and said, you might want to look at this. So on page 17, the very last paragraph, all we did was change it from even if the district to unless the IEP team. The reason being it's an IEP team decision. It is not one single team member's decision, parent, student, or otherwise. And many of our students do stay till 21 because of the need, but often we have students that with just specially designed instruction and some accommodations can have full access to the curriculum and wind up graduating on standards-based report cards, which is having the regular classes with just some accommodations. So that's why we would like to move forward with tweaking that a little bit so that it's not just one person's decision, it is an IEP team decision.
Any questions on that?
You know, was it stereo?
Yes.
So I guess then, if we have permission to move.
See if you get the thumbs up.
See if I get the thumbs up.
Go get it.
Thank you.
All right, the next policy this evening is 707, use of school facilities. This was the policy that came up from a community member over the past few education committee meetings. The board tasked the administration with going back to the table and coming up with something that prioritized student groups within the district first. So the language in green is what we are proposing. So we can do one of two things. We can leave the policy as is, and then that would not need to be revisited by the board next Monday. Or we can prioritize based upon the recommendation of the community member with regard to this policy. And those are the only two pieces that you see that are changed there in green. Just get the last piece on there. Essentially what this says is that priority scheduling will be only for Group A and will be available from June 1st through July 31st for the upcoming school year. Youth organizations will be prioritized over others when scheduling future events during this time frame in accordance with policy. So what we would be looking to do here is any Group A, which is our in-house groups, would be able to be prioritized from June 1st through July 31st. So they would apply and say that, you know, these are all the dates that we need for the year. We would look at Mr. Durr would start to schedule those. We would prioritize our students over other groups. And after that July 1st, which goes into number 2, regular scheduling will open August 1st for the upcoming school year for everybody else. So from that time forward, scheduling events would be on a first come, first served basis in accordance with the rest of the policy. Mr. Durr, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that.
Nothing else other than that, that would work for me. I can work within those guidelines.
So I think the community member had, looked at that, and she had a little bit more concern over that, like that it's still putting Group A in a bigger category, and it's not prioritizing, like specifically, I guess, the NLIAA or something.
It's prioritizing community youth organizations.
So they would come before the
Adult organizations.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you.
Yeah, it
Because
says
I know
youth
she had
organizations-
responded and, yeah, I'm sure you guys all saw
Yeah.
that, right?
Youth organizations will be prioritized over others when scheduling future events during this time frame.
All right.
So
So
it's-
right there it says it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I did not receive that correspondence, I don't believe.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you probably didn't.
Yeah, I think that was only sent to the board. My apologies.
Yeah.
I should have.
Okay. Yeah, I did not get anything.
I forwarded to Matt, but I
He
should have.
forwarded to you. Yeah.
I'll see if we get a copy.
Thank you. So it's the board prerogative at this point, if you want to direct administration, would you like this language to be included so that we do prioritize youth organizations in the Northern Lehigh School District over others? Or would you rather leave the policy as it was previously, before that green language was added?
So when high school out-of-season activities occur, okay, football runs to the gym, they're gonna work out. They're gonna do plays in the gym, I don't know, throwing something out there. Could be anything. How does that fit in with number 1? Did they get first priority, high school athletes or middle school athletes?
We've always prioritized in-season sports for our programs operated by the district.
Okay.
Not NLYAA, not Emerald Baseball or Walnut Court Baseball. It's always been our school district funded, sponsored programs in season first.
Correct.
And then it goes out to, now we're proposing, or the board has an opportunity to support
So what if
community youth organizations.
What if an out-of-season athletic team of the high school wants to use the gym? Do they get priority over a youth organization?
How have we addressed that currently, Mr. Durr?
It's been first come, first served.
It's always been first come, first served.
Because that says youth organizations will be prioritized. Well, I'm wondering if, the boys' baseball team wants the gym or a softball team wants the gym. Well, then youth is prioritized over our own student athletes at the high school, even though it's off-season.
we can add in-season district-sponsored sports, get priority. I mean, we'll write it however the board wants it. This is just
I think that's a good point,
verbiage.
Sean, yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
That's a good point.
Yeah, scholastic sports should always come first, I think, and then youth, secondary.
Yeah, I'm not saying they are secondary, but,
Or, no, I know what you mean.
yeah,
I'm living both of them, so I understand.
right, you know what I'm saying? Let's say field hockey wants to use it, in the winter,
Yeah.
at a given evening, and no, we have this youth sport that takes priority. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I do understand what you're saying.
I don't know how to solve it, but I'm throwing it out there.
Just know that if we do that, and I'm not opposed to that, I suspect we're still gonna receive concerns or complaints that out of season district sports are being prioritized over in-season community youth organizations. I could be wrong, but I suspect that we'll hear that as well.
But if we're opening it up from June 1st to July 31st, that's the opportunity for them to select their dates. And shouldn't the other sports kind of see that there is something already going on
Read the
there?
next sentence.
Right, or should we open it August 1st?
Youth organizations get prioritized over others when scheduling. That's a concern for me.
Maybe putting in the.
So the others in our interpretation of this was not district-sponsored teams or clubs. It was community teams or clubs such as an adult league basketball.
Sure, that I
probably.
understand.
So.
Maybe I'm not interpreting it the way you are there. That's what I'm saying.
I think Mr. Kern's interpreting it as like Wallingford softball or Emerald baseball taking priority over NLHS baseball.
Correct.
Or basketball,
Or taking priority over, if it's, the spring season, they're taking priority, baseball's taking priority over if Northern Lehigh High School football wants to use it in the spring. That would be the next conflict I would see.
Right.
I'm almost looking at the dates too. In June and July, do we have next year's baseball and softball coaches?
May not be.
So if baseball or softball wants to do an off-season schedule, and we don't have the coach chosen, because we haven't voted on it yet, and that baseball coach wants to have winter training, they're gonna get bumped. I believe that's what I'm reading. They're gonna get bumped by any organization, no matter what it is, because it would fall into number 2.
Right.
And it's first come, first serve.
Right.
Unless we just always default to district-sponsored teams or clubs.
So then would you say like,
Priority.
say the adult mini golf team wants Peters Elementary, and the boys baseball team wants Peters Elementary at the same time, we would tell the adult mini golf that, I'm sorry, you can't have that date now, even though you scheduled it, because our high school baseball team wants it.
We can do that.
Just asking.
It gets complicated, I understand.
It does, it's not easy.
I just don't want to
And
see our,
I want to be careful that,
I don't want to see our high school athletics being compromised and developing because,
And
and I don't want to demean youth sports because I'm a sports guy. I mean, they're all valuable.
they're our future.
I don't want to complicate things.
So Group A includes,
No, go ahead.
Group A includes school organizations, school-related organizations, and civic service and recreational organizations. When the admin team talked about this, we looked at doing it for the whole year, but we also talked about doing it kind of on a monthly basis as well. Like you can schedule a month out, you can schedule 2 months out, but we're trying to make it as the least complicated way that we could for the people that are trying to organize that, including Mr. Durr. So, we can make that something different than, a year out or for the upcoming school year, but that's something that we looked at, trying to get everybody to get their calendars together and project out so that we can, make sure that we're giving everybody that opportunity.
The issue I have with it is the dates for the entire year. I think if you would put another date range in for maybe your winter sports and your spring sports, in other words, like June and July would be for your fall sports. And then maybe you could go, I don't know, September, October for your winter sports.
Yeah, I like that concept. that
Because
idea. That
then
makes-
it
that makes
eliminates the
sense.
problem of a coach not being hired.
Right, that makes sense to me.
So your spring coaches would be hired when their date range came up.
Or quarterly or seasonally
Yeah.
or something that would, not for the whole year in June, but to spread it out over a couple of bites at the apple.
Yeah, I think by reading that, the word others is what bothers me. Youth organizations will be prioritized over others. Who is others? You know what I'm saying? Like, who's the others? Are we talking about outside organizations? I don't, but others is pretty broad.
So, the committee can have us take it back and bring it back again. We don't have to push this to first reading. We can take it back, continue to wordsmith it, and then bring it back again in August.
I think we need to look at that, yes.
I think that makes sense, yeah. I think you heard our concern.
And I want to be fair to the youth organizations too. Honestly, I do. I understand what her
All communities.
problems were.
So just to be clear, I think what I hear everybody saying is, one, break up the year more. And two, let's prioritize Northern Lehigh sponsored students over other youth organizations and other groups. Those are the two things I think I'm hearing. Is there anything else you'd like us to add into it?
So two things. One, I think Mr. Geis would be a good ear to pick because I'm pretty sure, football schedules are released months in advance.
They are.
I think any high school sports schedule is released months in advance. So that would give you the opportunity for those specific teams, sports to do what they gotta do. And then probably should, I think it was there before, but we were always told, if you reserve a facility, but the school's hosting a last minute district game, to make sure that whoever's on the schedule, they're gonna get bumped because of that. We scheduled the gym in the high school,
Okay.
but if basketball gets a playoff game, then obviously that's.
Yeah, right. Okay, I see what you're saying. And so we can do both of those. I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
I will say that it's not often that out-of-season district-sponsored sports are looking to get time in one of the facilities. It's usually leading right up to it when that season starts.
Yeah, it's usually the before overlap and the winter months. I'm sure you can.
Yeah, obviously.
The football players are wrestling, and the wrestlers are playing baseball in a small school, so there's.
Mr. Durham, I'm sure you can correct me if I'm wrong here, you do the scheduling. Probably the biggest pain in the butt is your February, March timeframe.
Is,
At least indoor wise.
it's December, January, February, first week in March, second week in March, depending on how far the NLOA goes into the playoffs. Those are literally the only time span that there's great demand for the gym.
Yeah.
All right, we'll bring it back in August again, and back to the committee, not to,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and the next policy is policy 830. This is security of computerized personal information breach notification. So we brought policy 830.1 to the committee in April. That was something that came out of Tech Pool Council out of the IU. So that policy, which is kind of under this umbrella, was actually written before this umbrella policy was updated. So this one addresses Act 151 of 2022, which is the Breach of Personal Information Notification Act. So this talks about personal information, what that includes as far as an individual's first name, medical information, health insurance information, username, email address, things like that. It now requires us to have ARs, or administrative regulations, for internal procedures following the discovery of a breach, determination of the breach, whether notification is required, timelines, who must be notified, methods of notification, things of that nature. So again, we passed kind of the sub-policy, this is the more umbrella policy. So Mr. Hill, I don't know if there's anything you want to add on this policy.
No, not necessarily. I think everything there, again, this is if there's any kind of data breach that we have to notify people is basically what it's all about.
Any questions on this one? Are we okay to move this to Monday for a first reading?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's all we got.
I close the policy meeting and go to community relations. Got it?
All right, we'll open up community relations and kick it over to Dr. Link.
Thank you, sir. So approximately 2 weeks ago, the president of the Northern Lehigh Education Foundation, some of you may know her, Lori Veronicas, asked to meet with me. And she asked me to kind of spread out the word through the community, starting here at this committee meeting, that they want to expand their membership. So people actively being involved in the Education Foundation. As you know, excuse me. As you know, the Education Foundation, their mission is to try to get resources through funding that they raise, separate from our operating budget, to our students and faculty. An example of that is Neff's Bank gives their EITC grant to the foundation, which then in turn turns that over to the district. We've been using that to fund the majority funding for our summer STEAM camps. Another recent example is Mr. Hauser wrote a grant for the middle school that was able to help us expand with our astronomy program at the middle school. They funded that. Lori indicated that some of the members are starting to step down for various reasons, mostly because they've been doing it for some of them decades at this point. And there's, they're kind of ready to either get some help or kind of turn it over to some new membership. So they would like to start, kind of setting up, if you will, some tables when we have events. So an opportunity would have been like the past career fair, right? They're not really a vendor, they're not a standalone community organization, they're really dedicated towards helping the district, setting up a booth there. Using our community outreach system for me to draft a letter out to the community saying, if you're interested, here's who you can contact, here's certain areas that they're, looking, event-specific type of things. So really what they're coming down to is they're asking for help from the district to expand their membership and to be able to use district resources to do that. I recommend that we do this because at the end, if they're able to, many hands make little work, it's going to help them, and then it's going to help them continue to raise funding for district opportunities for students and faculty.
I have no problem. I think they're a good group, and if we can support them in any way, I appreciate it.
I have no problem with it. What does that mean? Like, when you say expand, or use our resources and expand, what is that? I have no problem. I think it's a fantastic idea.
So
It's kind of like others.
They are looking to increase their active participation. They want people to become actively involved with the Education Foundation.
Okay.
Because right now it's a very small core group. And we have very active parent groups at the elementary level. The work that Mr. Hauser is doing with his coffee and conversations. I know that they're looking to extend that into the high school for those type of programs. If we can get Lori or whoever from the foundation in front of those groups when we kind of have a captive audience to say, this is what we would do, what we do for your students, for your children, for our faculty, get them out in front of those people. Use some of our electronic communication devices to get that out there for them. They really are just looking to increase their membership.
Like
How do you
open
become a
houses
member?
and things like that.
Yeah, open houses. Honestly, Lori, I would like to be on the Education Foundation to help you do work. Yeah. It's not, it's not an application process. It's not an application process, it's not, they don't have to, fully vet people.
I nominate Mr. Green and Mr.
Dear Lori. No, dear Lori.
So I will, however, I will say, I will say we have to be very cautious of some conflict of interest.
Right.
So for an example of that, we don't want employees to sit on the foundation because they could influence them to drive dollars towards certain programs or projects. And really, as a district, we should not be influencing that. It has to come from the foundation board. So there's, honestly, I would even have to look in to see. Now, if you want to volunteer at an event, that's different than being a decision maker on the Education Foundation board.
That's why I asked the membership.
Yeah.
Because I figured there was something, I'm like, we can't all just be on the membership. There's gotta be rules here.
Yeah, so, and there is, and it really what it comes down to, what are potential conflict of interest.
Thank you.
Yep. Sometimes you need to lead me to get you to this.
Sorry.
To answer the question that you're actually asking.
Sorry.
I rescind those nominations.
So that's it. It was a very good conversation, and they do a lot of great things for our district, and I think she'll be happy to hear that this group supports that.
Yes.
Okay. That's all I have for you.
Good, okay. Does everyone else want to stay a little longer?
Let's get the short one.
Just a quick shout out to the softball girls. They came up a little short against Minersville for District 11 title. Hell of a game. Main Street's still being paved tomorrow, by the way, heads up.
What? What did you say?
Main Street will be paved tomorrow still.
That's
right.
They got half of it done.
If anybody can go out
They
there
make it down to the intersection at the
it-
bottom
they
of the
made
and
hill.
it
say,
down
don't have
to-
another vape shop in Slatington and Wallingford, that would be fantastic also.
They made it down to the end of the bridge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Right over Trout Creek there.
Right at the bottom.
Yep.
Gallio's area, where Walnut Street.
No, right before there.
Yep.
Well, they're doing the
Diamond in
Walnut
there.
Street area too. That's
Oh,
what I got stuck in.
Oh, yeah. They didn't
Over
do
the
that.
Walnut Street Bridge.
Yes. We got
Number
more
six.
now.
That'll be a
Six.
problem.
Took me 45 minutes to get a cup of coffee.
Six.
I drove out to Dunkin'. I didn't realize what I was getting into getting out there.